Good morning, everyone. I will call this Board of County Commissioners meeting to order. It is 10:01. We're going to start with a salute to the flag. Commissioner Garcia, if you'll please lead us.
Please join me in a salute to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, that was very powerful. Thank you, everyone. We'll now move to our roll call. Madam Clerk.
Chair Hill.
Here.
Vice Chair Herman is absent. Commissioner Clark is absent. Commissioner Garcia.
Here.
Commissioner Andriola.
Present.
Interim County Manager Kate Thomas.
Here.
Chief Deputy District Attorney Mike Large.
Present.
And I'm Yvonne Strickland, Deputy Clerk.
Thank you so much. We have an invocation today, so we will have our invocation from International Fellowship of Chaplains, Pastor Nancy Basnier.
Good morning, everybody. Wow. It's just wonderful to see you here, the commissioners and everybody that's here in attendance. I just have to say this real quick before I pray. God loves you. He created you. He chose you. And this is the time. This is the time. So, Father, then you say, rejoice and be glad, for this is the day that you have made. We give you all the praise, the worship, and the glory. You say, for such a time as this. This is a phrase that's been used in the scriptures many times. And it has to do with people that are chosen, that are special, that are even royalty. God chooses them and calls them. He has called each and every one of us to a job, to a position. He has given us education. He has given us resources and many more things. He's given us all these things in order to optimize what we do in our community. I know that each and every one of you here love your families. I believe you're patriots. You care about your state, your county, your neighbors, your family, or you wouldn't be here. So we thank you for that, Lord, and we thank you that we have opportunities to make a difference in the community. It would be a shame if we missed an opportunity and devastation happened. As we know your plan, which says, I have a plan for you to prosper you, not to harm you, to give you a hope and a future. And as that plan comes about, many people can be spared in the culture that we have today. They can receive hope. Lord, you not only give us hope and mercy and love, but you give us power and authority in prayer. And as we're gathered here today, and there's work to be done for the county, and I just say that when we step up to serve, whether it's elected position or it's a position in our community, when we step up to serve, even if it involves sacrifice, there will be many, many that will have hope. There will be many changes. It'll change the culture and the atmosphere. So we say, Lord, thank you. Help us to do our part. Help us to follow the plan you have for us. Amen.
Thank you very much. We'll now move into item 4, which is our public comment. If Manager Thomas could help us with that.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Comment heard under this item will be limited to 3 minutes per person and may pertain to matters both on and off the Commission agenda. Unused time may not be allocated to other speakers. The Commission will also hear public comment during individual action items with comment limited to 3 minutes per person. Comments are to be made to the Commission as a whole. Virtual public comment may be taken when facilities are available. Today we have a few of those. A speaker's viewpoint will not be restricted. However, reasonable restrictions may be imposed upon the time, place, and and manner of speech. Irrelevant statements, unduly repetitious statements, and personal attacks that would objectively antagonize or incite others are examples of speech that may be reasonably limited. The Board of County Commissioners carries out the business of Washoe County and its residents during its meetings. The presiding officer may order a person removed if the person's conduct or statements disrupt the order or safety of the meeting. Warnings about disruptive conduct or comments may or may not be given prior to removal, and furthermore, certain disruptions of a public meeting are criminal acts as defined under state law, which may result in prosecution in appropriate cases.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk.
First up, we have Terry Brooks, followed by Drew Rebar.
Good morning. It's me, Terry Brooks, again. And today I came here to face the problem of discrimination when it comes to politics and race. When I was just a kid, I saw discrimination as really strange. But over the years, as I've grown up, I saw some stages of change. I lived in a Midwest town where most neighborhoods were segregated. I lived in one of the few neighborhoods that was somewhat integrated. All but one of the elementary schools were for a long time segregated. The first elementary school that I went to was fortunately the one that was integrated. We would go to movie theaters with a ground floor and a balcony. The majority had to sit on the ground floor. The minority had to sit in the balcony. The first few jobs I ever had there discriminated against any minority. They would only hire the people of the majority. In 1869, Nevada was the first state to ratify the 15th Amendment and put it in place, which said that no one could be denied the right to vote because of their race. It took a long time for minorities to be allowed to vote in elections, and it took even longer, but now several minorities have won a lot of elections. And so through many years of time, discrimination was debated in politics. It took a long time, but now it has been somewhat improved through politics. So discrimination is not nearly as bad as it used to be, but the situation is still not quite as good as it ought to be. I remember back in the 1960s the introduction of affirmative action. But in the 1980s, some politicians tried to dismantle affirmative action. Some politicians said if you grab people by their self-interests, their hearts and minds will follow. So those politicians would approve enforcing equality just to get votes they thought would follow. Those politicians used what was called quiet racism, in principle supporting equality, but they did so just to get votes and then opposed programs to help bring equality. I would like to thank you all for listening to me today, and I look forward to coming back and being allowed to say such things that I say.
Thank you, Mr. Brooks.
Thank you.
Great to see you.
For the record, Commissioner Clark has joined us.
Thank you.
Up next is Drew Rebar, followed by Nicholas St. John.
Good morning, Drew Rebar for the record. The first part of this public comment thing, you guys put some rules on the public comment. Wasn't really thinking about talking about this morning, but my motivation is the Constitution, free speech, just minor things like that we're supposed to have in this country and in the state of Nevada. The way you seem to word the rules for public comment seems to want to take people's public comments away. I'm not supposed to name people, not supposed to swear, I guess. All of these restrictions seem unconstitutional during my 3 minutes. So if the board interrupts my 3 minutes or any of the other public's 3 minutes, or if the public interrupts somebody's 3 minutes up here, that seems rather unconstitutional for me, especially if you as a commission are going to enforce restrictions against people's words up here. So I would ask Mr. Large, and good to see you, Mr. Large. Hadn't seen you for a few months. I would ask you to look into the restrictions that they're trying to place in people subtly, because I think subtle restrictions are bad too. Now to what I was really here to talk about today. elections. I think that's on the agenda today, isn't it? Well, you all know I got a Supreme Court decision. They didn't give me my writ of mandamus, but they did say that Washoe County violated the state constitution and Nevada law during the last election in the primaries. All of you have run for election before. How would you have felt if your name was omitted? Now, the other thing that happened is when the canvassing of the election happened, our district attorney's office threatened to arrest some of you elected commissioners for not voting the way that the district attorney wanted you to vote. A vote is speech. Isn't there a problem with attorneys threatening to arrest elected representatives of our government? Whether you agree with me, disagree with me, whatever it is on the political issues, isn't that really wrong? But there's another election coming up for district attorney soon, so perhaps we'll have some change. It's your job up there to ensure all of our constitutional rights are upheld, and all of us are given the ability to maintain our liberty and harm no others, but speak the truth that we all have. So thank you very much. I hope you have a good day. Drew Rebar for the record.
Nicholas St. John, followed by Maureen McElroy. And Mr. St. John has documents to be distributed.
Nicholas St. John for the record. What you have before you is a very detailed, actually it's as not detailed as it could be, but a summarization of an election integrity report for the general election 2024. There's a number of things that I'd like to point out to you in this report, and so I'll try to do that as I'm looking at the overhead here. The first thing is that I ended up giving, in looking at the downloads from the Secretary of State databases, we found that there were 33,038 records missing between May 24th and May 29th. I pointed that out and gave that list to the ROV, and they never did anything about it, and we've not heard anything from them. You would think that 10% of the voter rolls missing all of a sudden would be a red flag that someone would want to look into. Next is that during the election cycle, I downloaded the database every day from October 19th through November 16th, which is almost a month. That's during the election cycle. During that time, 11,412 records were added to the active voter rolls, 11,000. Of those, then they turned around and removed 3,510 records were removed during an active election cycle, of which of that 3,500, 604 of them actually voted on in the early voting or on election day or mail-in ballots, 604. Next, then we downloaded, so the cast vote record shows 264,333 cast votes. However, the highest number we can get out of either the polling books, the EAVS, or the voter rolls is a little over 260,000, which means there's over 4,000 voters that are missing. We downloaded the 2020 election cast vote records twice. We did it right after the election in November of 2020, then again in March and June of 2025. There were an additional 1,679 records added to the cast vote records from the time we downloaded it in November of 2020. Where's the integrity of this cast vote records? Why would you add 1,679? And they changed all of the cast vote record numbers. That's a huge deal. One of the big topics is 6,333 people were flagged as having already voted. That is 2.4% of the electorate. Now, we don't have any idea how many people tried to vote in person after their cast vote or after their record, their mail-in ballot was turned in. 20,000 people were listed in the voter database that don't have a record on file for the tax assessor's database, and much more, and you have the full report.
Maureen McElroy, followed by Pam Dar. Ms. McElroy has documents to be distributed.
Good morning, Commissioners and Chair Hill. For the record, my name is Maureen McElroy. Thank you for this time to speak before you. I appreciate it. Today's BCC meeting includes the Sheriff Department's usual quarterly report to you. I'm grateful this quarterly report is standard practice for our county. It is vital information our commissioners and our public should be regularly apprised of. With the continuing uptick we are seeing and reading about regarding ICE apprehensions and detentions, I'm asking our commissioners to consider agendizing a separate regular hearing or report from our Sheriff's Department about how the jail facilities are being used to support ICE, and also how information about ICE detainees at our jail is documented and made available through the Sheriff's Information System. There is a high level of justifiable fear and growing distrust in our community about ICE activity. I'm requesting our commissioners commit to being overly transparent about any changes to law enforcement practices or to our facilities that involve ICE, such as with the recent Homeland Security grant due before you. This is imperative to retain community trust in not only the Sheriff's Office, but in the county as a whole. This is an opportunity for you, our commissioners, to recognize how fearful and concerned the community is, and how transparency at this moment is very needed to assuage community concerns and to reduce rumors and misinformation. Thank you for your attention to this. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Pam Dar, followed by Susan Walls.
Good morning, Pam Dar. Good morning, Chair and other council. I can't even think today, sorry. Commissioners. I wasn't going to come in today and speak, but on the way in, I almost hit a homeless person in a wheelchair that was blocking the entrance. And everywhere I go, it's getting to multiply a lot. We are dealing with the situation right now with many millions being here over the past 4 years, where the federal government's working on that. I do hope this county is going to work with the federal agencies to work on that. How many are homeless? They didn't have a home, a lot of them, when they came here. So they're probably on the streets also. There's a mess in our hands, and we need to deal with this. Where I work out, the ones that they helped with the HOPE team, which does wonderful work, I'm glad they're there, they come back. I hope the angry person doesn't come back. But the ones that are to themselves and walk by all the time, they're back. So it's just a cycle. And I see them heading up towards the Vista north. I see them head north on Sparks Boulevard. Where are they going? There's no resources there. I understand they try to find places to hide their clothes because if it rains, they have to keep that dry so they can change so they don't get pneumonia and sick and die, because a lot of them die on the streets. I know in LA, when I went to a reunion in 15, the priest told me on average 12 on the streets die a day. And that was like 10 years ago. How many now are dying on the streets with so many more people on the streets? We have a mess, and we do have an immigration issue. And a lot of this needs to be addressed. We need to be open about it. But I will once again ask, including Story County, because they're dealing with the homeless too, because it's just spread. We have a workshop. We have people bring ideas. These are human beings, and it's going to be bad weather. I mean, we had a bunch near Walmart off a pyramid, and people were like, oh, leave them alone, they're nice. The next day we had, a foot of snow. It's going to get bad, the weather's going to get bad, and something needs to be done. Thank you, and have a good day.
Thank you.
Susan Walls, followed by Oscar Williams.
Good morning. Susan Walls for the record. When I spoke on October 19th before the commission, I mentioned that I am the daughter of a Mexican immigrant who was in this country as a lawful legal resident. I don't know the genesis of he and his family coming to the USA, but I do know that he did backbreaking jobs as a farm worker and in factories until he was no longer able. The detainment, arrest, kidnapping, and disappearing of immigrants in cities and rural areas across the country continues, and those actions are escalating instead of abating. Masked, armed individuals claiming to be ICE agents who will not properly identify themselves are taking these actions without warrant or for any apparent reason other than the color of an individual's skin, the language they speak, or the work they do. They are terrorizing our communities unnecessarily under the guise of national emergency, resulting from a massive influx of immigrants. This is clearly not the reason this is occurring. The vast majority of these individuals are, as well as countless other immigrants who have not yet been detained, come to this country to escape oppressive conditions and seek a better life for their families. They are not criminals, as some would have you believe. They perform difficult and important jobs that most individuals born in the United States either cannot or will not do, and are paying taxes that support services for which most will never be able to partake. A vast number of immigrants have initiated the necessary measures required to become lawful legal residents, which we know requires following an arduous prescribed process. That process is lengthy and unwieldy and generally takes many years, but does not always result in a positive end. Yet they are trying to do the right thing. I continue to be concerned about the current and future actions in Washoe. The sheriff will be using funds from the DHS, if approved by the commission, to, quote, create a confidential space to interview ICE detainees. This will be a change or improvement to the existing area that has been used for over 30 years. While improvements to aging facilities are always welcome, I am concerned that the improvement of the facility for ICE use will promote increased enforcement and detention activity in our area. I understand that the Washoe County Sheriff does not currently have a 287G program, does not participate in it. But accepting funds opens the possibility that the department will be coerced to participate in the program. Already, there have been other coercion efforts for which lawsuits have been filed, not only by the AG, but also by the ACLU. As an interested and concerned resident, I request that the commission place an item on the agenda for an upcoming meeting for further discussion and understanding of the improvements to the county jail, as well as department's cooperation with ICE. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oscar Williams, followed by Abby Pike.
Good morning. Oscar Williams. I'm here to talk about agenda items 12 and 16, the Tahoe rezoning. I'm real concerned about it. I oppose it, and it's a gift to the developers. It's basically, destroy paradise and put up a parking lot right now. It's exactly what we're looking at. There's some real issues with safety. You make more congestion, you're going to have more car accidents, more pedestrians getting injured, and if there's a big forest fire, you've got evacuation problems. We just saw a freak storm at the lake earlier this year where people, in 45 minutes, the lake turned into a death trap and people drowned. What was a land version of that where there was a fire burning would take out Incline Village in a couple of hours. The devastation would be swift, it would be horrible. You make it more dense, you make it more difficult for people to evacuate, and you're putting their lives at risk by doing so. There's an aesthetic as well. Certainly the health of the lake itself, I think, is at stake at some point. Certainly, I believe now you have to have a reservation and you pay money to go to Sand Harbor. So you're going to pack in more people and then have to restrict our public spaces because there's too many people to enjoy the good stuff that they pay taxes for. I have a problem with the zoning, the density thing. It's just, particularly with Tahoe, it's blatant, it's horrible, and I hope that you say no. Now, I don't know if there's some other obligations here. I realize you guys had a vote on like a 60-story condo building in Klein Village, according to the desires of the TRPA. I think that's a separate issue from what the zoning issues are today. I'm not an expert on it, so I'm not going to get real deep into it, other than just to say you guys have a vote that is considered protected speech by the Nevada Supreme Court and the U.S. Supreme Court. In fact, the case of Nevada Commission on Ethics v. Kerrigan had to do with the zoning of or approval or not of the Lazy 8 Motel project. Kerrigan had he was a Sparks councilman. His manager was a lobbyist for the project and his campaign manager. So there was a conflict of interest. Courts back and forth. Next thing you know, the Nevada Supreme Court said your vote or his vote was protected speech, and the U.S. Supreme Court supported that. You can extrapolate that to elections if it's the certification of the canvass of the recount of a local election under the Nevada Constitution, Article 4, Section 20. You got absolute rights to regulate it and control it, and under the rulings of the Nevada Commission on Ethics v. Kerrigan, nobody can dilute or deprive your vote. And so please exercise that vote appropriately when you're thinking about the zoning at Lake Tahoe. Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Abby Pike, followed by Ed Powell.
Good morning, commissioners and community members. My name is Abby Pike, for the record. I'm here today representing the University of Nevada, Reno Extension. I'm excited to share we're hosting the first Washoe County Healthy Kids Festival this Saturday from 1 to 4 p.m. at the Neal Road Recreation Center. This is a free farm-to-table educational experience for youth aged 3 to 8 and their families, but we're welcoming children of all ages. We just want to share the education. This is hosted by our SNAP education program, but it's supported by volunteers from all of our departments and from community organizations. We appreciate the support that you all have shown. We would love to see you there, and of course, all the community members that can make it. And we appreciate our ongoing partnership between Washoe County and Extension. Thank you and have a great day.
Thank you, Ms. Pike. We'll make sure to spread the word about that great event.
Ed Powell, followed by Charles Elliott.
Good morning. Ed Powell for the record. I just wanted to say I appreciate and welcome the regularly scheduled interaction between the board and the Sheriff's Department. I encourage the Sheriff's Department to incorporate the same procedures and protections for anyone involved in the Washoe County Detention Facility, particularly the inmate search function. I encourage the Washoe County Sheriff's Department to resist becoming complicit in any way with the mass abductions and disappearances that seem to be part of the ICE techniques. These techniques must not be normalized in what seems to be a budgeted army of secret police. These techniques are illegal, unconstitutional, and un-American. I hope we can get back to being a nation of laws and not men. Thank you.
Thank you.
Charles Elliott, followed by Sandy Tibbett.
Charles Elliott, for the record, a 78-year-old resident and born and raised here. So very dear to my heart. I was just going to talk about elections. That's a whole nother world, and I could spend about 24 hours on that. The history, I've been here many times after the 2020, 2024, probably be here after the 2026 if we don't correct things. But it's a shame. Washoe County, I'm totally ashamed of this county. I'm ashamed of this board, and anyway, I could really get into deep dive into a lot of stuff, but you know who you are and you know what you did, and God will have judgment on that. Now, I want to address a few things that was before me. Lawfare. Seems that this country's been swarmed with lawyers. There's more lawyers than doctors, more lawyers than almost any other profession, and we are suffering for that because everybody fears in Washoe County, the state of Nevada, the United States, fears saying anything because we'll be sued, we'll be served, we'll be whatever. And not a free country, not the way this country was founded on the Word of God and our founders. Education. We are the last in the nation. Thank God President Trump is going to do something about that, and I hope that we can enter and crash into this ceiling we've got around our education department in Washoe County. Then lastly, law enforcement. ICE has been around for years. ICE is operating under lawful orders, laws that have been confirmed by many presidents, many secretaries of state, many attorneys generals. This is a lie that's coming out. We are trying to return, I mean us patriots, Bible-believing Christians, we are trying to get our country back. We have been invaded. We have been derived. It's a shame what our country's going through, but guess what? We know who wins in the end.
Sandy Tippett, followed by Janet Butcher. Ms. Tippett has documents to be distributed.
Pay attention to that subject line. Sandy Tippett for the record, and good morning, Commissioners. I am here today to urge our county to eliminate mail-in ballots and voting machines and adopt hand counting of ballots to restore trust and transparency in our elections. While mail-in ballots are convenient, they create vulnerabilities that undermine confidence in our electoral process. Research highlights how mail-in systems can allow ballots to enter the system without adequate validation, potentially inflating our voter rolls with unverified entries. That's what's happening. By moving to same-day in-person voting with paper ballots and voter ID, we can ensure every vote is cast and counted securely under direct supervision, reducing opportunities for fraud or error. This method uses sequentially numbered paper ballots counted in each precinct under video surveillance, ensuring every vote is traceable, verifiable, and unhackable. Because the state of Nevada just got hacked. So automatic signature verification, ASV, ballot marking devices, BMDs, and ICP2 vote center ballot scanners being implemented in Washoe County have significant flaws that undermine election integrity and transparency. ASV is subjective to algorithmic variability and human review, with error rates up to 20% that can disenfranchise voters or accept invalid signatures, compounded by secretive proprietary software. BMDs costing $3,000 to $7,000 per unit plus maintenance are vulnerable to hacking, software glitches, and voter errors, with barcode-based ballots risking discrepancies that voters rarely verify. ICP2 scanners, also hackable with physical access, can misread ballots due to calibration issues or malfunctions, as seen in Antrim County, Michigan in 2020, and their exclusive software limits public auditing. To strengthen Washoe County's election integrity, I urge you to take these steps. First, request specific data on ASV error rates and rejection policies to evaluate their fairness and transparency. Second, ask for a detailed cost breakdown of the BMDs and ICP2 ballot scanners in the county's budget to compare with cost-effective hand counting alternative. Third, advocate for a pilot of a proven hand counting method in a small precinct as successfully done in Nye County, Nevada, and Gillespie County, Texas, to prove its transparency and viability. Finally, push for voter education on verifying BMD printed ballots and ensuring ICP2 scanners are audited with hand-counted samples to detect errors, enhancing
Janet Butcher, followed by Joni Hammond.
Janet Butcher for the record. This morning I'd like to bring to everyone's attention the number of Washoe County Commission meetings that were canceled last year in 2024 under the current chair's time. There were 8 commission meetings canceled throughout 2024. One could speculate the meetings were interfering with the chair's campaign schedule. Shouldn't the chair have stepped down from the chairmanship during that time that she was running to be reelected? I am calling for the chair's resignation as chair of the Washoe County Commission since she has announced her bid for a higher office based upon the following reasons. 1, it appears that campaigning may be more important than conducting the business of the county and the commission meetings. Secondly, since the chairperson has the ability to set the agenda for the meetings, the optics could be questionable. This brings me to comment on conduct from other commissioners. I was witness to a commissioner who stopped to engage with a person who had commented about the 3-to-1 vote pertaining to the TRP agenda item number 16 during the August 26, 2025 commission meeting presentation or vote. The incident has been documented and hopefully will be addressed. It was a very unsettling interaction. The commissioner was very animated about the fact that they did not want to go to jail and that if other commissioners who voted a no might feel comfortable in orange. Why do we even have a commissioner's vote? It's nonsensical, obviously, if they're being told that they're going to have to go to jail. And I quickly want to talk about the ICE agents. The ICE agents have been put into a very difficult situation. They're being doxxed. They fear for their lives, for their families, for their loved ones. So when people get up here and talk about, oh, they need to show themselves, well, we know what's happening to them. And besides that, it's federal law. People are here illegally. There is a means to get here. Thank you to the community for listening.
Joni Hammond, followed by Eileen Eklund. Thank you.
Good morning, Chair and Commission. I'm Joni Hammond. Elections are important. On October 25th, 2024, the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Fifth Circuit found Congress statutorily designated a singular day for election of members of Congress and the appointment of presidential electors. Text, precedent, and historical practice confirm this day for the election is the day by which ballots must be both cast by voters and received by state officials. Because Mississippi's statute allows ballot reception up to 5 days after the federal election day, it is preempted by federal law. Judicial Watch also filed a federal lawsuit against California on behalf of U.S. Representative Darrell Issa to prevent state election officials from extending election day for 7 days beyond the date established by federal law. California counts ballots received up to 7 days after Election Day. This Fifth Circuit action is a historic victory for honest elections, and now federal law sets Election Day, not Election Week, said Judicial Watch President Tom Fitton. California and the 17 other states, of which Nevada is one, should take notice. Our lawsuit just filed against California for counting ballots received for up to 7 days after Election Day has even more urgency and strength. Washoe County receives and counts ballots after Election Day. Why not comply with the Fifth Circuit ruling rather than get sued by Judicial Watch? Washoe County could and should be an example for Nevada. Paper ballots counted on election day. I always hear, oh, this is way too complicated, we could never do it. It's not complicated. France uses only hand-marked paper ballots. Ireland uses only hand-marked paper ballots. Canada, for federal election, uses hand-marked paper ballots. Washoe County can too.
Thank you.
Eileen Eklund, followed by Susan Van Ness.
Good morning, Commissioners, and once again, thank you for the opportunity to speak. For the record, my name is Eileen Eklund. I'm here today, here today to reiterate some of the concerns I previously voiced about the presence of ICE in our community, and specifically about the agency's relationship with the Washoe County Sheriff's Office. I hope we'll get some answers from the Sheriff's Office about that relationship, whether it's changed since the new administration took office, and what steps the Sheriff is taking to ensure that public transparency about ICE detentions in our community. I'm particularly concerned about who's responsible for oversight of ICE detainees in our county jail. How are they being booked in, and who's responsible for monitoring their situation and informing their families, loved ones, and attorneys of their status? Who determines how they're treated while in custody? I'm also concerned that the proposed jail renovation will expand ICE's capacity to operate in our community and detain greater numbers of our residents. We should be taking a hard look at our overall relationship with ICE, which under this administration has become a rogue agency operating as if it's above the law. Every day brings more reports of ICE terrorizing communities across the country, of masked and heavily armed men tearing people away from their families without warrants or due process. Do we really want to be complicit in these activities, to turn away and pretend that they aren't happening? Or do we want to take a stand and say, not on our watch? I hope that before you vote on accepting the grant money to fund these renovations, you will seriously consider these questions and insist on greater transparency from the Sheriff's Office about its relationship with ICE. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Susan Van Ness, followed by Donald Fossum. When you start speaking, I'll start it, okay?
Susan Van Ness for the record. I have partial vision in one eye today, so please bear with me. Today I stand before you strongly oppose the Registrar of Voters election plan for 2026. This proposal not only undermines the integrity of our democratic voting process, but directly violates President Trump's executive order on preserving and protecting the integrity of American elections, issued on March 25th, 2025. As patriots committed to free and fair elections, we cannot allow these flaws to persist. Let me outline why this plan falls short. First, the proposal flagrantly disregards Section 7 of the executive order, which mandates, which mandates compliance with National Election Day. It allows mail-in ballots postmarked by June 9th, 2026 to be received and counted up to June 13th, with signature cures until June 15th, tabulation dragging on to June 16th. Federal law under 2 U.S.C. 7 and 3 U.S.C. 1 requires all votes be cast and received by Election Day, except for uniformed and overseas voters. Extending these deadlines invites fraud and erodes public trust, highlighted by the Supreme Court's 2024 ruling in Republican National Committee versus Wetzel. We must enforce a strict cutoff to ensure every vote is timely and legitimate. Second, there is glaring absence of citizen verification measures, violating Section 2 and 3. The plan mentions over 103,000 voter registration updates, but ignores the order's requirement for documentary proof of U.S. citizenship on the registration forms. Without access to federal databases from the DHS and State Department, we are opening the door to non-citizen voting. This isn't oversight, it's a direct threat to election security, and the Attorney General is empowered to prioritize enforcement against it. Third, the heavy reliance on mail-in ballots, 58% in 2024, with plans to continue, lacks enhanced integrity standards, sections 1 through 4 and 6. Chain of custody.
Donald
you.
Fossum, followed by Penny Brock.
Overhead, please. Arts and crafts are back. Washoe County first. The reason I put that here is because too often in the past, you have been distracted by your welcoming in busloads of paid foreign invaders to justify your fake or unjustifiable consensus. So I would like for you to think more about the residents today. Going way back to 2017, I, one morning, woke up, went through my mail, which I don't do often, and found 5 invitations through election information materials at my house had been delivered for people that don't live there. This is in 2017. I called Jeannie Herman, and she said, would you please come to a meeting? I did. I gave that presentation here. I had the receipts. I showed you the letters or the envelopes. And the evolution of that was somebody came out of the office who works for the registrar's office and had me see the Registrar of Voters. Cola interviewed me that day. They played it on their opening of their news conference, and then they buried it. And that was good old mainstream media playing along with your agendas. You all do know that the DOJ is on the way to investigate Nevada's processes. And living proof that hand ballots and people, regular residents, our own audience, our own people, our own citizens can have an election in one day, be very effective at it, have the polling places jammed, the hallways jammed, and people down around the building surrounding the area. The election count was done in one day, and the results were given that night. So there's no excuses for anybody saying that that can't be done, because not only are we proposing it, we proved it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Penny Brock, followed by Paul Leonard.
Not Obama's DOJ. They're coming.
Penny Brock for the record. We're going to be hearing a presentation by the ROV, a PowerPoint presentation on elections. It's too bad you didn't allow for public comment after that. I guess we'll have to come back next week, because as I was going through the PowerPoint, I've got a lot of questions. I see a lot of issues and so on and so forth. So just so you know, there's a new report out called the Myers Report. I'll probably be addressing that in the future, but I just want to point out this chart. Nevada ranks the worst in the whole world for elections. It is no wonder the Department of Justice Criminal Division began investigations in July. The DOJ Civil Rights Division began an investigation of Nevada elections in June. Segal Chateau, the AG for Nevada, is investigating elections. Tulsi Gabbard, DNI, is investigating Nevada elections. Kash Patel, FBI. We are under the microscope, and you might say, well, it's not going to happen in Washoe County. Don't be too sure. It just came out that Trump's DOJ is investigating a couple of counties in Missouri. If they come into Washoe County, the county manager will be investigated. The ROV manager will be investigated, as well as the county commissioners. President Trump has said, I'm going to lead a movement to get rid of mail-in ballots. And while we're at it, the highly inaccurate, very expensive, and seriously controversial voting machines, which cost 10 times more than accurate and sophisticated watermark paper, which is faster and leaves no doubt at the end of the evening as to who won and who lost the election. We are now the only country in the world that uses mail-in voting. All others gave it up because of massive voter fraud encountered. We will begin this effort, which will be strongly opposed by the Democrats because they cheat at levels never seen before, by signing an executive order to help bring honesty to the 26 midterm elections. Remember, the states are merely an agent for the federal government in counting and tabulating the votes. They must do what the federal government, as represented by the President of the United States, tells them, for the good of our country, to do it. With the horrible left radical policies like open borders and woke for everyone and so much more. So the point is, we want to get...
Thank you.
Paul Leonard, followed by Forrest Russert.
Keeps getting harder to get up there. Yeah, for the record, my name is Paul Leonard, and thank you, Madam Chair and other commissioners, for having this opportunity for the public to express their opinion on any number of things. Apparently, it's a full court press. Interesting. I've been a resident of Washoe County since 2007. I've been a resident of Nevada since 1998. And for the record, my previous domicile was in Mississippi, not California. And I didn't come bringing millions of dollars. Sorry. Regarding ICE, it has been remarked that that agency has always existed. Well, it hasn't always existed, but yes, okay. You know, La Migra, you know, Department of Immigration Services, sure, has been there, placing what constitutes a selected group of, many of them, former vigilantes, becoming official representatives of the federal government with arrest powers. That's a little bit new. And let me make something clear. They're not recruiting the best people. Just visually, when you watch it, you can see all sorts of ICE agents who clearly could never have passed the physical that police and fire officers have to pass. I mean, I've been heavy in my life, okay, but I don't think I've ever had my guts stick out as much as some of these guys. And one has to wonder if they have reduced the requirements, diluted the requirements in law enforcement so far as far as these gentlemen's, and mostly gentlemen, physical appearance. I have to wonder about the requirements of their moral character and psychological stability, which we do require of our own police officers. Thank you.
Thank you.
Forrest Russert, followed by Adam Schifferdecker.
Hi, my name is Forrest Russert. And the fact that funding for the remodeling of the ICE facilities is even on the table is incredibly disappointing. ICE is acting as a terrorist organization, and we don't want to invite them further into our homes. We want real solutions, not expensive lies and attacks on our people, which is what's happening. There's a clear answer here in regards to the grant for the Sheriff's Department, and that's don't fund ICE. That's all I had planned to say, but I've got extra time, and I am often still surprised at how many people are anti-democracy and trying to go for more voter suppression.
Thank you.
Adam Schifferdecker, followed by Alicia Powers. Alicia Powers? Adam? Okay.
Good morning, commissioners, and what a beautiful day it is outside. I don't know if you guys have seen. You've heard from many people today and about many different topics, so I'll try to keep this short and sweet for you guys. My name is Adam Schifferdecker, and I'm a resident of Reno, Nevada. And I'm urging you to reject the $436,000 grant that would remodel space in the Sheriff's Office for Immigration and Customs Enforcement. This grant does not serve the needs of Washoe County residents like myself. Expanding ICE's presence in our community will not make us safer because when local law enforcement is tied to immigration enforcement, trust is lost. This causes some victims of domestic violence, workers experiencing abuse, and witnesses to crime to hesitate to come forward, making our neighborhoods less safe for everyone. There are also serious moral and legal concerns. Partnering more closely with ICE will normalize practices we've seen in other cities, such as masked agents, unmarked cars, and the detention of people who have not committed a crime. That's not justice, and it's not what Washoe County should stand for. I urge this commission to put our community first and reject this grant. Instead, we should invest in programs that build trust, strengthen families, and truly improve public safety. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Alicia Powers.
Good morning, commissioners, and thank you for the opportunity to speak. I feel that two prior speakers really spoke very well to what I would have liked to have been able to say. That's Ed Powell and Adam Schifferdecker. Completely agree with their comments. I'm here today because I'm deeply concerned about the recent escalation of ICE operations here in Nevada, particularly the sharp increase in arrests of people without criminal records and the troubling involvement of our state's National Guard in supporting enforcement activities. First and foremost, this matters because our democracy rests on the rule of law, including inherent adherence to constitutional rights that cannot be overridden under the guise of enforcement. Yet what we're witnessing challenges that foundation. The First, Fourth, Eighth, 10th, and 14th Amendments give the people of our country specific rights designed to protect the people from tyranny. Due process, a cornerstone of justice, demands that no one be deprived of their liberty without fair legal procedures. Beyond our constitutional rights, we must consider our community's sense of safety and welfare. The closure of Broadacres Marketplace in North Las Vegas, a vibrant center serving over 1,000 small businesses and Latino communities or families, demonstrates the real economic and emotional toll that ICE's presence is taking locally. Most importantly, what we're seeing is inherently inhumane. The tearing apart of families, children separated from parents, households disrupted, and communities left uncertain and fearful. These are not faceless statistics. These are people, our neighbors, our children, and our friends. I urge this commission to stand up for our values, to uphold and protect the rule of law, preserve the Constitution of the United States of America, ensure due process, and safeguard the well-being of our families and our shared community. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have nobody else signed in. There is an email to be placed on the record.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. We will now move into item 5. Manager Thomas.
Thank you. Item number 5 is your Commissioners and County Managers announcements, reports, and updates to include boards and commission updates, requests for information, or topics for future agendas.
Thank you very much. Do you have anything for us, Manager Thomas?
I have a brief item, if I may. I wanted to announce that we've got some community preparedness days coming up, which will be held in each of our commission districts. This is a collaborative initiative that's led by our emergency management team in partnership with the commissioners. These are going to be a series of community-focused events that will empower residents to prepare for emergencies and disasters. We'll have some interactive demonstrations, hands-on preparedness activities. We'll build emergency kits, create family communication plans, basically strengthen our community to be prepared for crisis. The first one of these events is coming up on Saturday, September 20th. That'll be at Lazy 5 Regional Park in the Sugarloaf Pavilion. And they are going to be, I believe, all the events are from 10 a.m. to noon, and you don't need to live in a specific district to attend. So we've got 5 of those coming up, and I'll give you a heads up before the commission meeting so folks are aware.
Thank you so much. Commissioner Garcia.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, everyone. I just wanted to give you all a heads up on a great event that's happening on Sunday, September 14th from 10 to 2 at the Sparks Marina. That's the Fam Fest, we call it. It's to raise awareness about fostering, adopting, and mentoring. It's great for any community member, regardless of age. It's free and open to the public. And if you're interested in learning about any of those programs or opportunities to help support children in need in the county, again, that's Sunday, September 14th from 10 to 2 at the Sparks Marina. I encourage you to attend. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Andriola.
Well, those were 2 of my announcements. Thank you for the opportunity to just reiterate September 20th for preparedness at Lazy 5 from 10 to noon. And then the Fam Fest is the 2nd annual. It's an incredible opportunity to bring the entire family to, again, as Commissioner Garcia stated, to create awareness about fostering, adopting, and mentoring. I believe it's actually from 10 to 3. I think they increased the hours, so I'll just add that. I also want to thank the interim county manager as well as the assistant county manager, Dave Solero, for looking at some of the processes in place for the invocation, and it is back in full swing, and encourage anyone who would like to submit an application to do so for providing an invocation at the Washoe County Commission meeting. So I wanted to make sure that everyone was recognized for the gap of time. It wasn't intentional, but we're back on track, and want to thank everyone for that. Thank you.
Thank you. And Commissioner Clark.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to thank everyone who shows up at these meetings with public comment. No matter what your viewpoint is, we all need to hear, and the public needs to hear what your thoughts are. So thank everyone for showing up. There's some public comment about things happening in the hallways here after meetings, and I want to ask my fellow commissioners if we can get some upgraded cameras and some microphones placed in the hallway so people can feel protected in that fact that anything disrespectful or untowards. Anyone can be recorded both visually and with audio. I've got a thumb drive in my pocket of a situation that happened a week or so ago. I got a written statement about it this morning. I got several phone calls about it. I've got a video of what took place, kind of grainy, but I think we need to have better security as far as visual security and audio security in the hallways and public places here in the county building, just to protect everyone. Also, this type of talking to citizens, if the allegations of talking to citizens, I just think it's disrespectful to the folks that it happened to, and someone put it in the public record so you can read about it if you'd like what I'm talking about. And I'd also like to ask the district attorney to weigh in on this. Have you seen anything since you've been here? You took over after Ms. Canderas retired. Have you seen anything on the agenda that would potentially put any commissioner in an orange jumpsuit? Anything that we voted on here? Does your office review the agenda before it's published? And do you see anything potentially that would get any of us up here on the dais arrested by voting either yay or nay on any issue?
Commissioner Clark, I'm not prepared to go through every item that we've had in the last few months, but nothing jumps out at me at this point.
So it's safe to say, no matter how a commissioner votes, and at least on the agendas that you remember, you didn't see anything, and nor would, I'm not going to put words in your mouth, would you allow anything to be on the agenda that would potentially put any of us in jail or prison or in an orange jumpsuit? Is there anything that rises to that level that we vote on?
Commissioner, again, Michael Large for the record from the District Attorney's Office, there are fiduciary obligations that each commissioner has, and there's oaths they have to swear in terms of following the law, the Constitution, NRS, and the ordinance of the county. But I am not aware of anything that would have resulted in criminal prosecution.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you, Commissioner Clark. I wanted to just say thank you again to the team who put together the State of the County. All of those videos of our strategic initiatives are on the website. I encourage you to check those out, and we want to get those out to the community so people can see what the commission has been up to and what we're really emphasizing. We'll be doing another strategic planning retreat probably in the new year, and so hopefully community members can participate in that, and we'll see what those new initiatives are. But it was great to discuss the work that our incredible staff have been doing to make this the most livable county in the nation. So I just wanted to say thank you again for that opportunity, and really looking forward to continuing to push forward these really important initiatives. We'll now move into our proclamations, and I think Commissioner Andriola is going to help us with 6A1, and if Manager Thomas can help us with that.
Certainly, thank you. 6A1 is a proclamation for World Frontotemporal Degeneration Awareness Week, or World FTD Awareness Week. And so Commissioner Andriola will help us through that proclamation.
Wonderful.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to go ahead and read a proclamation on behalf of the Board of County Commissioners. Whereas frontotemporal degeneration, or FTD, is the most common form of brain disorders for people under 60, including actor Bruce Willis and TV radio personality Wendy Williams. And whereas FTD represents a group of brain diseases caused by degeneration of the frontal and/or temporal lobes of the brain, is frequently misdiagnosed as Alzheimer's, depression, Parkinson's disease, or a psychiatric condition, and currently takes an average of 3.6 years to receive an accurate diagnosis. And whereas FTD differs from Alzheimer's, FTD symptoms include uncharacteristic personality changes, apathy, unexplained and impulsive choices, struggles with decision-making and motor skills, incontinence, and more. And whereas FTD can slowly change good-hearted, intelligent, and hardworking people, causing them to become paranoid, anxious, mean, or inappropriate, while silencing, altering their reputation, and creating a stigma that strains family relationships and friendships. And whereas FTD has no treatment or cure, it affects an estimated 60,000 people in the United States and remains unfamiliar to many in the medical community. And whereas the Association for Frontotemporal Degeneration's Northern Nevada chapter is working to bring people together who are impacted by this tragic disease with local meet and greets and support groups. Now, therefore, the Board of County Commissioner does hereby proclaim the week of September 21st through the 28th as World FTD Awareness Week. And
Thank
you
you.
for coming. I'd like to have you come if you can and introduce yourself. And he actually works with the Northern Nevada Public Health, to which I serve as a board member, and I welcome you to come and please say a few words. Thank you.
Will do. Thank you so much, Commissioners and Commissioner Andriola. Scott Oxerart from The Record. My day job, I'm taking lunch break right now as the Communications Manager at Northern Nevada Public Health, but I come to you today as a volunteer and an ambassador for the state of Nevada for the Association for Frontotemporal Degeneration. I want to thank you all for just helping me bring awareness to this disease. I have a couple guests who are also impacted by this disease with me. I want to talk, the reason I'm here is because of my father. He passed away 2 years ago from FTD. He was a great man, 40-year Nevada resident. He worked at IGT for 25 years, proud Basco, loved Louis Bass Corner. And this disease really transformed his personality. It changed him from a caring, loving person to someone you would hardly recognize both physically and mentally. In fact, I have a story. So I have some pills right here. So back in 2022, we had a family gathering at my house. We had my sister and her kids there. He went up to my niece and said, "Boy, it looks like you're gaining a little weight." She was 13. Something he would never, ever say. It shocked the whole family. Everybody's like, what is going on? We didn't have a proper diagnosis at that point. He later came up to me with these pills and looked me right in the eye and said, "Hey, I thought you could use these." Those pills were for erectile dysfunction. If he would have been like, "Ha joke, it's funny," it would have been funny. Like, I would have laughed. Unfortunately, he was dead serious. And it's a happy and a kind of a sad moment just because the last 5 years of his life were completely changed. But in that moment, I really do think he was handing me those because he thought they would help. And that's who he was. He was somebody who loved to help people. But it's also sad because it is a realization of the kind of shift in that personality, the inappropriate social behavior that comes with this disease. And so many people just don't know what that's like. And it's really hard for caregivers to deal with because you try and talk to somebody like, "Hey, you know, my dad did this horrible thing where he said he shot out, like he murdered like a biker gang member and was looking out the blinds and making sure that they weren't coming to find him," like this delusional stuff. Trying to tell that to somebody like a friend or family member is very difficult. So that's one of the reasons why I've really dedicated myself to promoting this disease so a lot of people know more about what it is. Bruce Willis had a really nice interview with Diane Sawyer a couple weeks ago. But really just having more meet and greets for the caregivers to be able to talk through some of those things with people that have gone through it before. And our goal is to get a support group in place. I'm looking for volunteers to help me facilitate that. But really, it's just trying to bring awareness to it. And if anybody watching this is having somebody, a loved one, again, this can be as early as your 20s, but usually between 40 and 60, going through some just severe personality changes. It's not always depression. It's not always a psychiatric condition. Consult a neurologist and your doctor to find out more. You can also go to theaftd.org to find out more resources. I've taken plenty of your time. Thank you very much.
Scott,
Appreciate it.
thank you. I admire your work on this. I follow you on social, and it's incredible what you've done to raise the awareness. And I have learned so much from you. And I actually advised a friend who is dealing with something with her mother about looking into this disease as well. So you created awareness in me, and I think you just shared that to our whole community. So thank you so much. Let's give Scott and the team a round of applause.
Madam Chair, that's a form of a motion.
Thank you, Commissioner Andriola. Looking for a second?
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Garcia. Any public comment, Madam Clerk?
We have nobody signed in.
Okay. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please say nay. And it's on your screen. Did you get my vote?
I
It
did not.
disappeared. That's an aye. I apologize.
Okay.
Thank you. That motion passes unanimously. We'll now move into, yes, wonderful. Thank you. Keep up the good work. We'll now move into our proclamations, our presentations. Manager Thomas, if you'll help us with that.
Thank you. We have 7A1, which is a presentation and update on our fiscal year 25 fourth quarter status report for the Washoe County Regional Detention Facility. We're joined by Captain Stewart and TJ Mills, who will go over the security of the jail, conditions of confinement, staffing, and medical care of inmates that are housed at our facility.
Welcome.
Thank you. Good morning. Captain John Stewart with the Washoe County Sheriff's Office, for the record. Good morning, Chair Hill and fellow commissioners. I come to you guys today with the fourth quarter stats. This is my first time here, so I'm asking for a little bit of grace. I sent over in Granicus a presentation with the stats. A couple of things I'd just like you to look at slide 6. The fourth quarter for previous fiscal year, it's tracking about the exact same for our length of stay. Many of our stats are very congruent with the previous year. Another one that I would like you to look at is slide 8, with a few things that we've been doing as far as battery by inmates. They're down from 21 down to 17. We attribute that to our employees having better control over the facility and doing active enforcement within the facility and being present. Also on there is inmate versus staff. Battery by inmate on staff is the same as last year. And some fights that were averted. We averted 49 fights compared to 30 in the last quarter. I do want to utilize this time, unless you have questions, to have TJ Mills, who oversees the bridge program. I think this is a good stage for the community to see what we're doing for the inmates and for the commissioners as well. TJ's done a great job overseeing this program and has given a lot of resources to the inmates. I know that some of you have come down for getting ahead while getting out, and this is something that TJ Mills has been leading, and I think it's an awesome opportunity for him to show you guys what he's been doing. So,
Great. We'll ask you questions after the presentation if we have
Absolutely.
further questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
For the record, TJ Mills, Senior Office Specialist, Washoe County Sheriff's Office. Good morning, Commissioners, and thank you for the opportunity to be here this morning. It's an honor. Just about a year ago, I had the privilege of sharing an ambitious vision for transforming reentry resources at the Washoe County Sheriff's Office. And I'm excited to be back today to discuss with you not only how we've upheld our commitments, but how we've actually exceeded them and are growing more and more all the time as a force to help our community. Now, at the bridge at the Washoe County Sheriff's Office, we believe deeply in the principle that it's better to prevent the next crime rather than having to punish it. And that belief drives everything that we do. And our vision is simple but powerful, and that's that we envision a community where every individual has an opportunity for successful reentry after incarceration, no matter their past. And the way that we contribute to that is through pre-release reentry programming. And our pre-release reentry programming seeks to provide structure, tools, and support to assist our participants when they release back into our community. Most importantly for us, we're guided by the question of what is successful reentry? And to us, that means long-term that we're reducing recidivism, But the way that we actually influence that, the lever by which we reduce recidivism, is by providing long-term meaningful support through employment, education, pro-social relationships. So that's actually the lever that we influence these outcomes with. And for us as well, it's not about helping bad people who've done bad things. This is about facing the fact that almost every single person in our custody will be releasing back into our community, back into our neighborhoods. And we would all be better off if they're equipped with the tools to succeed. And so when I was brought on board about 2 years ago, we faced some challenges, and primarily those resulted in lack of a formal funding structure. Our department, as a result of that lack of a funding structure, was staffed on a rotating special assignment basis. And what that means is that staff were pulled from other departments in the facility and brought into our department for terms of 1 to 2 years. And the manifestation of that churn was that we lost institutional knowledge, social capital. We lost consistent program design every 1 to 2 years. And really what that looked like as well is when I got there, we had a department where I came in and saw things that maybe weren't ideal, and I would ask these questions on, why are we doing things this way? And consistently the answer was, well, this is the way we've always done them. And what that looked like, our results were, our processes had become outdated, our programming was scattered and misaligned, and most importantly, we lacked tools to measure the efficacy of any of our efforts on an individual or systems level. And so I came into this role with a directive to change the department and bring about more resources to bear to help our community. And I believe what I brought with me were 2 perspectives that really aided in that. The first I shared about last year was lived experience. I spent a great deal of my younger life as an inmate in that very facility. So I know what it's like to desperately need, on a heart level, to change and want to change and not know how. The second perspective is a systems level perspective. When I started to turn my life around, from a great deal of help from amazing people in this community, I fell into construction. And as an opportunity of that career, I had a chance to start a very successful private construction company, or help start one, I should say. And at that time in my life, what that looked like on a day-to-day basis was swinging a hammer all day long, running as fast as I could after work to our studio apartment, and running the business on our laptop, not knowing what I was doing, but learning, and then tearing out of there with my hair on fire to go to UNR at night to do night school, to earn my MBA. And that was a crazy, chaotic time in my life. And I learned many valuable lessons, but one of the most powerful lessons that I learned was that if we didn't succeed, we didn't put food on our family's table. And so there was absolutely no option to fail. So we approached that through continuous process improvement and treated it as a business. So that was the perspective I carried in when I met Sheriff Balaam and was brought on board at the Washoe County Sheriff's Office. And I hope it's clear to all of you, as it is to us, how important reentry is to Sheriff Balaam. He empowers us more every day to help our community. And what he directed us to do when he brought me on board was to rebuild our department the right way. And what that meant was that we had to dive into the evidence because we didn't know what we didn't know. So we dove into peer-reviewed, evidence-based research on what works in reentry, and we found a lot, and we learned a lot. And what we learned more than anything else is that we had to change. And so what we did is we developed a clear-cut, step-by-step framework to bring about that change. We presented it first to Sheriff Balaam and the executive staff, and then here last summer. And it was met with widespread approval. And just to review, our commitment was to become evidence-based, data-driven, and holistic. Evidence-based means that we implement what works. Data-driven means that we make decisions after we've gathered the data rather than before it. And holistic means that we seek to treat the entire set of needs of our participants. And this wasn't just a mission statement. It was a blueprint. So for us, and for any effective reentry program, one of the primary foundation stones need to be a screening system in place to understand the needs of our participants. A metaphor that we use that helps us internalize this is looking at our booking department in the facility like an emergency room in a hospital. When someone shows up in a hospital exhibiting symptoms of a heart attack, that is a problem. However, if there are underlying conditions which led to that heart attack that are unaddressed, and that patient is stabilized and returned to the community, we know with a fair degree of likelihood they'll return and possibly sicker. Much like our booking department. When someone shows up in our booking department alleged to have committed a crime in our community and they're about to lose their freedom, that is a problem. However, if there are underlying needs that are unmet while they're in our custody, we also know there's a great likelihood they will return possibly in worse condition, and our community worse off than before. So a screening tool tells us what we need to treat. So our first step was to partner with some of the preeminent minds in this field of research. We met with many research departments all around the country to identify this tool for our facility. And there are great tools, incredible validated tools, but none of them fit our needs. And the reason is many of these tools are resource heavy. Also, they need a culture of investigative or motivational interviewing, like a social work culture, that isn't inherent in our facility yet. So rather than just throw up our arms and say, well, we tried, we can't do this, we built our own tool. And what we built is a digital self-assessment tool that measures self-perceived needs, across multiple needs domains. We administer this tool on the inmate tablet system, and the results so far have been incredible. To date, we've had more than 550 participants who have completed the assessment. It was launched in March of this year. And what that means, given our average daily population, is we are 95% confident that these results are reflective of our population with a plus or minus 4% margin of error. Moreover, given the homogeneity of jail populations in a given community, this isn't just reflective of the participants who took the survey, it's reflective of our jail population in our community over time. And what's especially important about this, those numbers at statistical significance meets the threshold to inform policy decisions and funding decisions. It's incredible. So what we've done is we authored a comprehensive research report, which we've started to share locally and nationally, and the response so far has been overwhelming. This tool is going to change how we deliver reentry resources. The next steps for us are to partner with a research agency to not only validate the tool, but to create a predictive model. So not only will we be able to predict the outcomes of our participants, we'll be able to predict the characteristics of our facility and the community as a whole. And I'd like to share with you just a few of the insights that we've gained already. And this is just one of the questions, but it offers a powerful insight. 88% of our participants self-reported immediately prior to incarceration that they did not have gainful employment. And if you'll allow me, here's another powerful insight as well. 74% of our participants self-reported not having stable or independent housing immediately prior to incarceration. And what this shows is a tremendous opportunity for cross-agency collaboration. We have an opportunity to not only identify the needs of our participants, but help develop comprehensive case plans and community wraparound services that they leave custody and enter into those services, rather than waiting for them to leave custody and having our community deal with a downstream effect, which often is quite negative if we don't meet these needs. Again, I'd just like to say the comprehensive research report that we authored has detailed statistical analyses as well as narrative analysis that paints the full scope of need. So to meet these needs, and this is kind of the bread and butter of our department, we needed to reimagine our programming. And what that meant was the first step was undergoing a capacity mapping exercise. Because in a detention facility, every action we take sometimes severely impacts other departments. And as safety and security is of the utmost concern at all times, we had to know the potential impact of any action we took. So through that capacity mapping exercise, which took approximately 6 months, we not only gained a thorough understanding of what our capacity was and our resources were, but we gained a deeper understanding of the effectiveness of our current programming. And what we learned, some of our programming was quite ineffective. So that meant we were faced with the harsh reality that to get from where we were to where we needed to go, we needed to make some drastic changes. What that looked like is we phased out ineffective legacy programming, and we sought out some evidence-based programming to take its place. The first thing that we learned as well is that 25% of our population in the facility does not have a high school diploma or equivalency. And that means there was a tremendous opportunity to meet a need in our facility that could have tremendous positive downstream impact in our community. So we sought out what for us was revolutionary partnership with Truckee Meadows Community College. And they have absolutely changed adult basic education in our facility. What that looks like is an increase in more than 250% of instructional hour opportunities for our students. High set pass rates and measurable education gains have grown exponentially. That is real impact that's making its way back into the community. Furthermore, some of the other things that we learned through our capacity mapping was that 40% of our population have children, many of whom live in this community. Again, that identified a tremendous area of need. So we already had a partner doing great work in our facility, UNR Early Head Start. So we grew the partnership with them, and what was previously a program that offered services to expectant mothers who were incarcerated, we grew this program in partnership to offer services to all incarcerated parents with children aged 0 to 5 in our community. During the past year, they've served 90 families in our community, and that is real, evidence-based, community wraparound care that is impacting generational cycles of crime and incarceration. That program is remarkable. It offers concurrent services not only to the incarcerated parent, but to the child and primary caregiver in the community. Some of the other insights that we gained was that 30% of our population, we didn't know this going in, was ineligible to attend in-person programming due to the very nature of their classification status. They can't move freely throughout the facility. So nearly 1/3 of our population had been denied vital resources because our previous programming model was all in person. To address this need, we partnered with a national agency that has been developing and delivering cognitive behavioral therapy for more than 5 decades. We launched their program on our inmate tablet system, available to the entire population, and the results have been remarkable. To date, we've had more than 400 graduates of their programming and more than 5,000 inmate hours in housing units working on pro-social cognitive behavioral therapy on their tablets. It's been incredible. That's real impact. But the truth of the matter is, of all of this, everything that we're sharing with you, we know it's only as good as the people that we partner with. The best example of this that I can demonstrate is Chaplain Travis Sharp. He is remarkable. He develops, monitors, and then evaluates and delivers our in-house curriculum. And he's a teacher. He teaches us as a staff about models of fidelity, how to adhere to these models of fidelity to ensure our results. He teaches our students that real change is possible. And he teaches them that we haven't given up on him. And so for everyone who has attended a graduation ceremony, we hope to see you again. We have one next week. And anyone who has not, we would love to see you. It's a powerful example of the change that's possible when people get involved with our students. And the truth is, we know that we can't do this alone, that we're one small link in this critical chain of reentry. So to make a broader impact and impact our community more positively, we've sought out more than 80 partnerships in the last year with local, state, and national partners across a variety of sectors, including education, workforce, clinical, and criminal justice research. We know that for any effective, meaningful long-term change, we have to have effective collaboration. But the truth of the matter is, we've faced real headwinds during the last year as well. An FCC determination has gutted our funding source as a department, which is the commissary fund. TMCC's Adult Basic Education Fund was completely dismantled overnight through a federal determination. And while that was overturned, the results were devastating. Programming ceased to exist. I'm happy to tell you that it's since resumed, and we're glad to have them back. UNR Early Head Start has had to change their program model and their name because Head Start's being dismantled nationally. So what we've found is our role as a department has been to support many of our partners, to help them stay and help them survive, because the work they're doing is what's having a true impact in our community. But I'll also tell you as well that despite the headwinds, we're not slowing down, because we absolutely cannot. So what the next year looks like for us is, again, to validate and refine our predictive screening tool that we built. This tool is becoming a national model, and the Washoe County Sheriff's Office is leading the way in effective reentry practices. Our plan is the UNR Statistics Lab as our partner, but if that doesn't work out, many other research agencies have asked to partner with us. We are a national leader in this field now. And the idea is that maybe we're just supposed to be stewards and get this tool into the right hands, and it will help people all over the country. Additionally, to scale what works. What that looks like for Truckee Meadows Community College is a really ambitious vocational certification program where people pre-release can obtain vocational certifications to obtain gainful employment post-release. For UNR Head Start, or home visiting program rather, it means expanding into new funding sources to possibly achieve housing stability for some of these families. Our remote programming, we have proof of concept now. We're expanding that as well with peer-led, evidence-based reentry programming that begins pre-release and continues post-release for free for the participants. And another item on there is to provide subject matter expertise. We're happy to tell you, and we're really proud to tell you, that we had an opportunity to present and propose with the Nevada Attorney General's office new ways to effectively define and measure reentry success. So we don't strictly rely on recidivism, because that's a poor metric on whether or not a program is successful. So we're getting an opportunity to lead the discussion. And last but not least, I would be remiss if I didn't say this, our long-term goal is a Washoe County Sheriff's Office Community Reentry Center. And that's this place where if somebody's leaving our facility, instead of stepping off the red curb back into our community, they have an opportunity, if they're willing, to step into this facility and receive the wraparound care that's going to help them succeed. And it's also that place, as you've heard at the graduations, Sheriff Balaam implores our graduates over and over and over again, if you're having trouble back in the community, come back in through our front doors and ask for help, rather than through our back doors in handcuffs. And that's that center where anyone from the community could come in and ask for the help they need and get it. And also, anyone from the community who's able and willing to provide help can come in and be of service. So, thank you. I know I can go on this all day, so I know I'm probably way past, but thank you so much, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Okay, any questions on this amazing program, the Bridge program from board members? I know some board members have attended graduations. Commissioner Garcia.
How can I not just say you're such a success story? It's inspirational where you've been, how far you've come, what you've built. You've continued to innovate. I know we have a great support at the Sheriff's Office, but just thank you on behalf of all of us for this tremendous lift you've had and the national impact you will make. Tell me a little bit more about what it looks like, a community reentry center. What have you seen in other jurisdictions? What's the vision? Or if you had a magic wand, what would we have in our community?
So we have had, thankfully, a lot of mentors who've shown us the way. We have just called and emailed so many different correction centers around the country and research departments. And one that's been a really important mentor for us is Salt Lake County, very progressive. And they're actually, I think the doors have just opened. They piloted a reentry center in their detention center, where it was a hallway that everyone releasing would walk through that hallway and have an opportunity to gain access to these resources, a number of resources. And they actually pulled the participants in the facility, they pulled the inmates in the facility over a period of a month, said, what are the most important things that stand in the way of you successfully reentering? They learned a lot. Some of those things were, my phone's not charged when I leave. How can I access resources if I can't call someone? And so they learned what the needs of their participants were, and they launched this in partnership with the Sheriff's Office, because it was the county criminal justice agency and the Sheriff's Office. They launched it, it went really well, but the grant funding ran out. And so they actually are opening a brick and mortar facility on site, and it's opening, I think it opened this month, and it's in partnership with county social services. So there's case managers there to provide comprehensive case management and assessments that can actually be the linkage back into the different community providers. And the community providers are on site. So there's a representative there to establish that relationship as well.
Thank you. Commissioner Andriola.
Thank you. I am looking forward to the upcoming graduations. I've attended graduations, and I really think it would be remiss to not recognize Sheriff Balaam for his leadership and really giving you the opportunity to build this. And I love your statement on the slide that said build to work and built to prove it. And that's what you're doing. You're building it and then you're proving it. And I think having a leader as we have in Sheriff Balaam, that is leadership. When recognizes that there's an opportunity and then allows you, in this case, to build it. I also really want to do a shout out to Chaplain Travis Sharp, but I know you had TMCC on the list, but I will share the commitment to the trainers that are coming to provide this really important information to have folks be successful and not come back. It was powerful during those graduations, and visiting with the graduates of the reentry and having that relationship and that support was really a sense of pride. And I think that information is really important, education is critical, but having somebody believe in you, and that's what I saw. The reentry graduates that I had the pleasure of meeting really had a sense of pride because people believed that they could succeed, and they didn't have that before. So thank you for changing your life, and thank you for giving back in the highest way possible. So really, I'm looking forward to the graduations. They're coming up. I was looking on my phone when they were coming up, so next week.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Clark, do you have anything?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for your report. It's important for all of us commissioners to hear exactly what you're doing, but it's also important to have this on the record so the public can understand what's taking place over in your department there. So again, thank you for sharing this valuable information.
Thank you.
And as part of the intercept model, which we discussed during our strategic plan and county state of the county message, I know that reentry center is a part of that model, and so I think this board wants to see how we can support you with that, and so we'll continue those discussions and see how, if we can, find the funding for something like that. But I think that is essential to make sure that folks aren't homeless when they leave the jail or aren't going to a hospital, and that we're actually finding them a way to be successful and to continue to contribute to our community. So we'll see how we can support you with that. Commissioner Garcia?
Yes, Madam Chair, thank you so much. I think I'll direct my question to the manager, Keith Thomas. This is an item about jail status update, so I just wanted to bring up some questions that have come to us in the form of public comment and email over the last couple of weeks. So I think you're good if you want to sit down, maybe Mr. Solferino, if I could pitch this to you. Thank you so much. I didn't want to deflate what you were talking about and all the great work, but if we can utilize this time to just address some of those. So I'm very supportive of law enforcement, very supportive of Washoe County Sheriff's Office, and I've seen firsthand how willing and transparent they are to communicate with different members of the public. I've talked to people personally who've said the open lines of communication have been wonderful, but I wanted to give you an opportunity to talk about the work that you're doing as it relates to the transparency and communication regarding ICE. So, for example, the public may or may not know this, but there's a Latino stakeholder meeting today at 1 o'clock that the Washoe County Sheriff's Office is hosting. A large group of Latino leaders from the community are going to have access to our staff and get to see the facility, tour the facility, and ask those questions. And so that's an example of you really going above and beyond to welcome people in and to ask those tough questions. But I agree with folks that people are nervous. There's things that hit our headlines nationally and here locally that are making folks feel like they can't trust law enforcement, and that is the last thing we want in our community. So the questions, if I were to summarize over the last few weeks, have been related to needing clarification about our booking department and how information is shared. So booking information, for example, is there a separate booking system for ICE detainees? How is information shared between Washoe County Sheriff's Office and ICE? So if you could kind of hit some of those talking points for me, that would be wonderful.
Absolutely, Commissioner. And Chair Hill, with your indulgence, Corey Solferino for the record. This is an important topic, and I didn't want to take time away from TJ Mills and Manager Hensley and Captain Stewart as to what they're doing in the jail, because their work needs to be recognized and their work is plentiful. So I just wanted to celebrate them. I also want to talk about the importance of why Sheriff Balaam is not here today. So if I could ask for a moment of silence. Sheriff Balaam is currently attending a line-of-duty death funeral for Reno Police Sergeant Ernie Casimir. That is occurring right now as we speak. So if we would, with the Commission's indulgence, Chair, just have a moment of silence. Sheriff Balaam is attending those services. Thank you, Chair Hill. Thank you, Commissioners. Madam Manager, Chief DA Large, congratulations. And Clerk, my name is Corey Solferino. I represent the Washoe County Sheriff's Office. I have a prepared statement that I think will clarify a lot of the questions that have been going on. Because these communications are important to Sheriff Balaam, he would have been here today, again, if it hadn't been for the funeral. So I just want you to know the importance and sensitivity of the nature and why we're here today. Washoe County Sheriff's Office respectfully submits a statement to clarify and formally acknowledge our partnership with U.S. Immigrations and Customs Enforcement, which operates under the umbrella of the United States Marshal Service contract. ICE is one of several federal partners utilizing bed space within the Washoe County Detention Facility located at 911 Parr Boulevard. Under our intergovernmental agreement, the federal government compensates Washoe County at a rate of $160 per inmate per day for housing of federal detainees, including those under ICE custody. These individuals are federal prisoners housed in our facility under contract with the U.S. government. Their housing is fully funded by federal resources, not our county taxpayers. Compliance and oversight. Federal regulations, including those enforced by the U.S. Marshals Service and Department of Homeland Security, mandate annual audits in contracted detention facilities. These audits review compliance with federal standards for policy, for procedure, for medical care, for cleanliness, for food service, for linen exchange, programming, inmate services, to just name a few. The Washoe County Sheriff's Office also maintains compliance with Nevada Revised Statutes, Chapter 211, regarding local correctional institutions, which governs local jail operations, ensuring consistency with state requirements. The Washoe County Sheriff's Office, and I think this is important because this is where a lot of the terminology gets lost when people refer to something as a warrant, a hold, and/or a detainer, all three of which are completely different things. So we do not hold inmates based solely on ICE detainers. People will refer to a detainer or a hold. What happens is consistent with federal and state law under Title 8 of the Code of Federal Regulations and NRS 248, we require a valid judicial warrant for detention absent a declaration of probable cause. What does that mean? Other than people in the room with the attorney and/or law enforcement, we can only receive two types of individuals. A declaration of probable cause where they've been arrested on local, state, or federal charges and they are booked on such, or a federal warrant. A detainer is something that ICE can place on an individual that is currently in custody on local charges. Once that individual has satisfied local charges, meaning that their case in custody has come to remediation, whether it was not filed, they are time served, they're being transferred to another jurisdiction, ICE has 48 hours to grab these individuals with quote-unquote detainers and/or holds, because those terms are used interchangeably, or they're released from custody without a federal judicial warrant. So some of our individuals that have looked on our website that saw an old declaration from, I believe, Sheriff Haley regarding the 287G program, we have never participated in the 287G program. What that is Washoe County Sheriff's deputies or a deputy sheriff within a local jurisdiction who goes through and, if you will, for lack of a better term, an ICE academy and literally has access to immigration enforcement, immigration databases, and is doing that work under the purview of the federal government, but being paid for by the entity of the state. We do not and have not participated in that program. Once a federal warrant is executed and local custody is resolved, individuals are transferred into federal custody and are no longer forward-facing to the public. So that's where I think some of the numbers, where the numbers aren't jiving. So if we have an individual who is currently arrested on local custody charges, and they have an ICE detainer, meaning ICE wants to come in and talk to that individual to determine whether or not they want to apply for a federal warrant and take them into federal custody, or if they're just going to come and interview them and let them go at a later date, that is what happens. When those local charges has been satisfied and a federal warrant from ICE has been issued, those inmates are no longer forward-facing. Then their classification status can change to in transit and/or federal custody. So they have control over the entire nation as to where those individuals go from here. But we do have a contract with them. So once they've crossed that threshold, if you will, they go through the same booking process and procedures, but because of that Code of Federal Regulations, those inmates are no longer forward-facing to the public, and you wouldn't be able to do an inmate search. Federal ICE inmates being housed absent local charges, including those in transit or awaiting federal proceedings, just want to reinforce that, are not forward-facing to the public. These individuals are held exclusively under federal authority per our contract with the U.S. Marshal's Office. This distinction is critical in ensuring that the Sheriff's Office remains compliant with both constitutional requirements of due process and the federal contractual framework. The Washoe County Sheriff's Office remains committed to transparency, compliance, and responsible stewardship of county and federal resources. Our partnership with the Department of Homeland Security ensures that Washoe County maintains a secure detention facility while upholding both federal statutory obligations and Nevada Revised Statutes. We always appreciate the board's continued support, and Commissioner Garcia, to which you alluded to earlier, we do have a stakeholders meeting this afternoon at the Sheriff's Office talking about this very thing. And I wasn't prepared to discuss, nor did I really want to discuss today the grant, but I will address the elephant in the room. It has been submitted. It has been approved at the state level through the Department of Emergency Management. It's still sitting in the queue at the feds. When and if the feds do decide to award that and bring that back to the commission for a board report, I understand that we will have a comprehensive board report. We will have a Q&A session. The sheriff has put a lot of work with his communications team to put those questions to the public in a way that could answer and address most of those. But if I may, I think I can clarify a lot of what's going on. It's not adding increased space. It's remodeling existing space where these things are already existing and have existed since this facility opened in 1988, 87. I forget my actual dates, but they have a desk in there. This is what we're doing, is we're bringing things out of the open. So you know, on a busy day when we have large events in town and there might be a surge in the jail population, we can have upwards of 50 to 100 people in the intake lobby. These conversations are happening with ICE currently out in the public of the intake view. This would remove those confidential conversations to a purview area where they can have a conversation, they can have an interview room, they can have the privacy and dignity and respect that they deserve while they're in custody. So I just thought I would put that out there, and then please be happy to entertain any questions that the Board or Commission may have in addition to that.
Yeah,
Thank you for the statement. I really appreciate that. And that is some of the feedback I've received, is that the privacy issue is not always respected enough. And so that was the flip side to many of the arguments we hear reported out there. But the questions I'm receiving are more about the detainer and holds. And so where can folks go? What is the best process for them to get those answers specific to bookings, specific to the detainer and holds? Because the FAQs that were posted were largely about the grant, Homeland Security grant. We've got a select group that are invited today, but what can the general public, some of the folks here sitting in the room, what is the best way for them to access that transparency and information?
Commissioner, thank you through the question. Through you, Chair, to Commissioner Garcia, Corey Solferino, for the record. Honestly, the Department of Homeland Security. I was perusing through most of that as I was coming up here today, just fact-checking what the detainers are, what the holds are, because it's been a couple of years since I've been formally in charge of the jail. I've had a couple of different opportunities to move through and just wanted to make sure that nothing's changed. So that's why I have my SMEs behind me to make sure that we are still instituting these same charges that have been in place for several years. So the Department of Homeland Security speaks to specifically what a hold is, what a detainer is, and what a federal issued bench warrant is. So I think we can use, for terms of this commission, a hold and a detainer synonymous. They're the same thing. So if somebody is in charge, just again if somebody is in custody on a local charge, but ICE wants to have a conversation with them, they would place a detainer and or hold. After they've satisfied local charges, they have 48 hours to respond to that hold, or they're released from custody. And if they don't produce a judicial warrant. But the Department of Homeland Security, specifically Immigrations and Customs Informant, has a Q&A form right at the beginning of their page that talks at length about all of these and the federal requirements for what those requirements are.
Thank you very much.
Yes,
I have a few questions, but I'll throw it over to commissioners. Commissioner Andriola, Commissioner Clark, do you have?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And again, I just want to say thank you for the information. It's important for the commissioners to hear what exactly is going on over there. And it's also important to have this on the public record so folks can understand this at a later date. Somebody can view this and find out exactly what's taking place there. So again, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
And I think what I've received from community members is similar to Commissioner Garcia, and I think it would be helpful, and I don't know if you can answer these today, but to add this information to the FAQ page, because there's real concern that due process is not being done right now. And so I think the community, if this is happening within our walls, I think that they have a right to know these questions. And I'm wondering, is there any changes in crime reporting or witness cooperation due to ICE collaboration right now? Or is that something you can, how how much have we changed our practices since this new regime has taken over, and or is this a similar, have we been acting in a similar way?
Chair Hill, Corey Solferino for the record. To address a couple of the questions, business is normal. Nothing has changed in that requirement as far as what the Sheriff's Office is doing in our collaboration with ICE. That relationship has stayed consistent with all of our federal partners before this administration, after this administration. None of that has changed. Now, speaking to the broader implications as to our citizens and their kind of fear, anxiety, and what's going on in the public and their ability to report crimes and or be friendly with us. I think a lot of what we see outside of Washoe County is sensationalized. I think what we have in Washoe County is a very supportive group of individuals and a sheriff's office that is listening to their community. I haven't seen that, but I would be remiss in my friend TJ Mills, who just presented on evidence-based practices, to just get up here and guess as to whether or not people are cooperating with us or telling us things that are going on. That's the age-old question, right? As you get back to community-oriented policing, is getting that mobilization of crime. How is it reported? Do people feel comfortable talking to law enforcement, or are they worried about reporting that crime because maybe their immigration status is in question or suspect and they're afraid to come forward for a whole host of reasons? I don't have any data to support that has increased or diminished, but that's something that we always talk about, and we are forward-reaching with community engagement, building that public equity, and continuing to do the programming, the presentations at the university. A lot of our faculty at the university are invited up to the sheriff's office and partner with us for those things, and a lot of our commissioned officers and rank and file at the sheriff's office teach at the local university. So I think is those partnerships that get people coming forward, asking those questions, and trusting law enforcement. Otherwise, we're missing an entire demographic of crime that potentially is happening in our region, and people don't feel comfortable to come forward. So that is the principle of community-oriented policing and what we want to represent here in Washoe County.
Do we tell ICE agents people's immigration status when we have them booked on a different charge?
I'm sorry, Commissioner, again.
Do we tell ICE people's immigration status when we have them booked on a different charge? Are we like?
I think the question that you're asking is basically, how does ICE get the information of people that are in our custody?
Thank you.
The same as the forward-facing public platform that has out there. They have that same access to that public record. When somebody is booked into custody, they can do a name search through their databases based upon our database and determine whether or not that's an individual that they want to come up and speak with or not.
Okay, all right. As you heard through public comment, there are real concerns 100%. About how this is being done. I'm glad that the sheriff is opening up the office later today for a group of constituents. I think if there is a way that we can continue to answer these questions with an FAQ website that people can find. And I know some of this is on Homeland Security, but some of this has been opaque for the community, and I think it's tough to point to federal sources of information when it seems to be changing daily. But I will send you some of these questions that I've been receiving from community members, and it would be great if there was some way we could collaborate to address them. I know when that grant comes before us, that will be a robust discussion, so we won't have that right now. But it is weighing on our community members, and they are seeing these stories happen real time. I'm being told things that are not as they were before. So I think that's the tough part for community members to keep the trust with their county, because really at the end of the day, we're a jail that wants to function to make sure everyone's safe in our community. We're not looking to go after people necessarily and make it a scary place to live. So that's where I think we're trying to find the balance here.
Chair Hill, thank you for the comments, and Corey Solferino again for the record. I think it's important also to, again, just thank you for the opportunity again to just address some of the misinformation and then information out there, because if we don't fill in the voids will be filled in for us. So I want to put that information, Sheriff Balaam wants to put that information forward, so we will work on additionally putting some of these comments that we made here on record today out to the public to help answer some of their questions. But absent an ICE inmate who's in transit, and for a whole host of security reasons, I won't get into them, why they wouldn't have the access to maybe make an immediate phone call while they're in our custody, everybody has the opportunity to make a phone call after
Okay.
booking. So for those constituents, for those community members, for those family members that are worried about where their loved one may or may not be, after that booking process is solidified, absent them being in trans until they arrive or land at another facility, those individuals are afforded their constitutional right and are afforded a phone call. So they can make those phone calls when they're booked into our intake lobby free of charge.
Okay, well, we'll continue to have this discussion. We really appreciate the team and you being patient to give us these answers, and we'll continue to have this chat. So any other commissioners have comments? Commissioner Clark?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I think that it's important for the citizens of this county, and just this county, that I've talked to the sheriff myself. You're not encouraged to the management doesn't encourage the deputies to single out folks, doesn't encourage the deputies to go after people. They're doing their normal business, and they're not seeking out people for whatever reason, and unless they become on the radar. And I know things are happening, may or may not be happening on a national level that have got people's attention, but I feel confident that this sheriff's department is not targeting people. In the course of business, if they come your way, they come your way. But is that a factual statement? Nobody in management is encouraging deputies to be vigilantes and go out and track folks down. Is that a fair statement?
Chair Harrell, through you to Commissioner Clark, Corey Solferino for the record, absolutely not. I mean, immigration enforcement is the job and the responsibility of the federal government. They are a federal partner, and because we do have federal contracts with them regarding their prisoners and housing of prisoners, we do have a unique nexus with them, but we are not out there targeting individuals based upon their immigration enforcement. We have a robust number of teams in addition to patrol and regional teams that go after human trafficking, sex trafficking, drug enforcement in this area, habitual criminals and felons, irrespective of their immigration status. That is not a topic, that is not a condition, nor is it a direction of this office or the sheriff on down to go out and do immigration enforcement on behalf of that solely.
So you're not profiling just for that. If they happen to have interaction with you because of other activities, that's kind of on them, but you're not out searching these folks out. And I just needed to get that on the record, if that's a fair statement.
Correct.
So the citizens of this county understand that your department is not intentionally going after people.
Correct, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, well, we'll continue to have the discussion. Thank you very much for making yourself available, and have a great rest of your day.
You too. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go to our second presentation, 7B1, Manager Thomas.
Thank you. You are about to hear a presentation by Registrar of Voters Andrew McDonald and Deputy Registrar Addie Vetter and Deputy Registrar Reggie Greer. They are here to give us an update on the Registrar of Voters office, as we have had requests from the commissioners for that they come periodically to do that. So they're here to give that for you.
We've been looking forward to this presentation. Welcome.
Excuse me, Chair Hill?
Yes.
Just for the record, Commissioner Garcia left at 11:56.
Thank you very much.
All right. This used to say good morning, but now it's afternoon. So good afternoon, Madam Chair and Commissioners. For the record, my name is Andrew McDonald, and I'm the Washoe County Registrar of Voters. Thank you for the opportunity to serve this great constituents and Washoe County. I appreciate the vote of confidence. I also want to thank the dedicated ROV staff that have been through all these elections in 2024 and the voters who voted in 2024. I'm here with my two Deputy Registrar of Voters, Addie Vetter and Reggie Greer. Together, we will provide an update to the state of the ROV office since we last presented in February. I first want to start off with our old mission statement. Actually, our present, there we go. Thank you. So our old mission statement was good, but we've revamped it to be a more concise mission statement. The new mission statement, I'd like to take a moment to read it. Washoe County Registrar of Voters is committed to safe, secure, transparent election administration, protecting every eligible citizen's right to vote and maintaining public trust through accuracy, integrity, and innovation. We believe this refreshed mission statement resets the values of our employees and the voters of Washoe County. As you know, the department has experienced significant instability at the leadership level over the past several years. My top priority has been to change that. Since stepping into this role, we've been focused on rebuilding intentionally and strategically to make the Registrar of Voters a place of excellence for both the staff and the voters of Washoe County. Critical roles and long vacant positions have now been filled with capable and talented individuals. We've been selective in our hiring process and strategic in assigning the right people to the right positions. We are building a team grounded in purpose-driven work. Each member brings a deep sense of commitment to their role, not only in our primary responsibilities of election administration and voter registration, but also in creating a culture rooted in service and community. That said, we are budgeted for 19 full-time employees with 2 current vacancies, 1 as a business technologist, 2, and 1 office assistant. By the numbers, we currently have 344,000 active registered voters in Washoe County. The breakdowns per political party are displayed as of September 2nd on the left side of the screen. The second half is a compilation of all 3 elections from 2024. Our base budget remained the same at $5.5 million, as did the FTE count from the previous fiscal year. We took almost 35,000 public calls during the duration of the 2024 election cycle, totaling 70 days, 49 minutes in total. That's just over 7 weeks of staff time on the phone assisting voters. We also processed over 103,000 voter registration updates during this extremely busy time. With only 3 staff, we recruited over 1,000 poll workers. If you think about it, that's close to 1/3 of the Washoe County staff here, permanent staff, in just 3 elections. We held 78 poll worker training sessions and deployed over 2,500 pieces of election equipment for voters. To conduct in-person voting, we opened 186 vote centers, 64 early voting with 22 election day locations, and provided 189 mail ballot drop boxes. We also processed 11 petitions, 9 of which were conducted while we were in active elections, adding to the complexity of election administration. For all 3 elections, we tabulated over 393,000 validly cast ballots. Of those, 164,000, or 41.8%, were in-person ballots, and almost 229,000, or 58.2%, were mail ballots cast. There were 113 election integrity violations filed with the Secretary of State's office. 89 of those have been closed, and 34 are still open with the Secretary of State's office. There were 95 attempted double vote investigations, with 75 being closed and 20 still ongoing with the Secretary of State's office. Next slide. Internal technology and systems. Since February, we have been focused on creating new programs for voters and internally for staff. For voters, we now have Wordly and Language Line, supporting language access for all voters who might not be proficient in the English language. We are overhauling our website, our ROV website, for ADA accessibility, while streamlining content for a better voter experience. That project's due to be completed December 31st of this year. For staff, we have created new centralized operational services, a third-party vendor contract repository for enhanced tracking and ownership, a procurement approval system for automated internal requests for election supplies, an ROV intranet site for tracking important dates, events, and frequently requested forms, and an internal elections e-calendar. I call it the Bible, if you will, of elections. Is a day-by-day countdown of election tasks by date, description, ownership, and to make sure we stay on critical path. We are investigating the use of an AI call agent. As mentioned, we took almost 35,000 calls between 8 staff. If we had an AI agent, we could potentially answer frequently asked questions more accurately and timely for constituents. For now, I'll turn it over to Deputy Vetter to talk about voter list maintenance.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Voter list maintenance processes are the highest priority for our department because they allow us to maintain accurate and up-to-date voter rolls. These procedures include actions such as inactivating voters, canceling voters, in compliance with statutory and federal deadlines. On the slide before you, apologies. On the slide before you, it's a summary of what we've taken action on in the last year. To summarize, we've canceled around 25,000 voters, we've inactivated around 12,200 voters, and notably we sent around 35,000 voter address confirmation cards in August for voter inactivity, and what that means is that they didn't vote in all of the elections in 2024, and they haven't updated their records since prior to 2024. We actually can start taking action on those voters as of yesterday, so another big inactivation will be taking place in the coming months. We will be continuing these procedures throughout the remainder of this year and into next year prior to the 90-day federal deadline. In regards to mail ballot processing, we've been working to improve in all facets prior to 2026. As previously mentioned, we acquired a new mail ballot sorter prior to the general election last year. We're currently working with our vendor to implement automatic signature verification for the 2026 election cycle and moving forward from that. What ASV does is it digitally compares the signature, the default signature on the voter's record with the signature that's signed on the mail ballot envelope. And what this does is it allows for increased efficiencies for our team so that not every single signature is manually reviewed with eyes on glass by a person, and will allow us to be more efficient in our procedures. In addition to ASV, we are reevaluating procedures and processes to identify areas where we can increase efficiencies. An example of this, simplifying our manual signature verification process to be one step with 2 individuals reviewing, as we no longer need the physical ballots in front of us to do signature verification. In addition, we are reviewing all ballot processing stations for improvements, creating documentation, standard operating procedures, and quick reference guides that will allow us to simplify and streamline procedures moving forward. We did close out 2024 processing procedures by sending around 762 boxes of election material to retention. We actually visited the facility and verified all of those boxes are there, and they'll be waiting for their 22 months from the date of the election to be destroyed. And on another note, we are very fortunate to receive county staff who come down and assist with mail ballot processing. We had over 100 staff come down during the general election to help. We could not do it without them. But we implemented the shift scheduling tool, which is through Teams, to allow them to schedule online rather than having to go back and forth via email. And it was really successful because it cut back on a lot of staff processing time that we would have to do to kind of manage the schedules and organize that. And in 2026, notably, we have quite a few offices that are county offices from those departments that are up for election. So we're likely going to be having less staff coming to assist with processing next year. And as a wrap up, we have participated in 4 statewide mock elections. We will be continuing to participate in mock elections moving forward this year. But what that allows us to do is test all of the things that we've been improving and documenting to see how we can be more efficient in 2026. I will now pass it to Deputy Greer for vote centers.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Reggie Greer, Deputy Registrar of Voters, and I'd like to give you a snapshot of some of the other aspects of our operation. So taking a look at our vote centers here, as you can see, all of our vote center contracts expired last election cycle. And what that provides is an opportunity for us to ensure that the vote centers are in the right spots where the community needs them. We want to ensure that that everyone has accessibility for voting, and we don't want to disenfranchise voters. So coupling that with a renewed focus on ADA compliant locations, we wanted to make data-driven decisions on where to put these vote centers. So we created a heat map. And real quick, before I go to the next slide, I just want to give a shout out to Technology Services. They did an amazing job taking criteria that we gave them and putting it into this heat map that you'll see in a few slides. So some of that criteria that we have, that we gave Technology Services, is proximity. How close are these vote centers to public transportation? voters with disabilities, low-income communities, language minority communities, and some of those populations that are geographically isolated. Some places that come to mind, if you think of Nixon, out at Pyramid Lake, Cold Springs, even parts of South Reno as well. Those are some of those locations where we still want to maintain those vote centers as well. Now to take a look at the heat map here. This is very innovative. This is what we were looking to do. So on the very left-hand side, you'll see a map of the Reno-Sparks area. And just to understand the map pretty clearly, the orange circles that you see are vote centers for early voting. The green are for election day locations. And then pretty much the larger the circle gets, the more heavily used that vote center was by the community. So you can see we have some pretty large circles on the map. And when you scoot on over to the right side there, you'll see another layer of blue. So this is our heat map right here. And to understand this side, the darker the blue, the more need in the community for a vote center, given the criteria that we gave TS. So as you would expect, you could kind of see the middle of the Reno-Sparks area, tailing on down to South Reno, up in Sun Valley, and this isn't the entire map, just a snapshot to make it legible. But you can see those are kind of the heavily populated, heavily dense areas, and that's where you would expect the vote centers at. So we're looking to make sure that they are in these locations. But we need people to work the vote centers. We can't just have all these vote centers around town. So as the registrar mentioned, we recruited over 1,100 county or poll workers, including temp labor. With the additional, so we have to train these individuals as well too, and with that additional focus of ADA locations, ADA requirements, that's gonna add about an extra hour or so, 45 minutes to an hour to the training. So typically we train over in Building C in the training room that's currently under construction. We're actually looking for a larger room so that we're able to train more people each session so that there's less sessions, because it's about a month-long training term just to get everyone trained up for this. And then we're also partnering with HR, with Human Resources, to assist with our training for the poll workers. And lastly, where do we put all our equipment? If you guys haven't been to the warehouse, we do have a warehouse. We're leasing approximately 13,000 square feet where we hold 3,000 of our voting, nearly 3,000 of our voting system machines and ballot printers, 650 poll pads. So if you go vote in person, those iPads that you check in on. And then all of our supplies are there, all of the necessary things for a vote center, including the tables, the partitions, everything is in this warehouse, including those big blue metal vaults that you see at a location. Unfortunately, as it sits, our operation has outgrown the current warehouse space and ballot processing area. And to give you an example of that, when we're scanning in ballots, we have to stop scanning ballots in the ballot processing room, push the tables, push the machines out of the way, the scanners, so that we can intake ballots from vote centers when they bring them in every day. So that kind of puts a hold on the process and makes it a little bit slower, less efficient. So that creates a need for us to scale out and deliver election results more efficiently. And with that, I will turn it back over to Registrar McDonald.
Thank you, Reggie. We have created new, never-been-done programs before in the Registrar of Voters office, focusing on voter engagement and education efforts. Since May, we have had a ROV booth at 7 community events with 4 goals in mind. 1, registered voters. 2, sign up poll workers to be poll workers. 3, find vote centers that we can partner with for the upcoming election cycle. And 4, engage and educate citizens about voting. Also, since 2025, we've attended around 24 weekly naturalization ceremonies for new citizens, registering them to vote. Lastly, we have been working with the Washoe County School District to create a new program to educate young to-be voters on election equipment and mail ballot options. The legislative session has come and went. The last session, we tracked and responded to 50-plus election bills. Each of those bills required a fiscal and operational impact statement and analysis. Ultimately, 6 bills passed, and I'll just quickly name off a few here. So the first 4, AB 148, sample ballot booklets must be mailed out prior to mail ballots. AB 262 allows poll workers to volunteer their time. We do have folks that want to do their civic duty without getting a paycheck, without getting a wage, and this now allows that to happen. So that's great. AB 367 codifies the SOS language for language access with over 200 languages plus ASL on their website. And SB 241 requires ROV to recruit poll workers at tribal polling locations. It's something we've already been doing in the past election cycle here, and we actually have a very strong commitment to the tribes. And it's the first time that an ROV's actually went and spoke to the tribal council. That recently happened, and then Reggie was at another tribal council recently speaking on behalf of the Registrar of Voters office. We will be coming back to you for some future BCC items to make decisions. First, extending the voting system contract and upgrading from VBPAT to ballot marking devices. That will be your decision to make after the presentation. A technology that would place a full-length ballot in the voters' hands at vote centers. 2, we'd be looking to migrate to the state mail ballot print vendor as a cost avoidance to the department. They recently signed on with ProVote, a more regional partner, as opposed to the previous contractor who was in New York. And 3, to ratify VRIMS, the interlocal agreement between Washoe County and the Secretary of State's office. I did miss one here, and I just want to speak about it. There's a 4th thing we'll be coming back for, and that's the interlocal agreements between the City of Reno and the City of Sparks for our office to run the city elections on their behalf. As we kind of close out here, there's a few more quick slides. The 2026 primary is not so far away. Starting in November, we'll be accepting candidate filing appointments for the January 5th judicial candidating filing. It's right around the corner. You can see some of the timeline that we put out here, but on the next slide, I wanted to highlight the June 10th or June 19th holiday. We will be certifying the final canvass of the vote 1 day early on June 18th due to that holiday. That concludes our presentation today. I apologize that we definitely went longer than anticipated. Thank you, and we'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
This is great. We can tell that your office has been hard at work. Manager Thomas, do you have anything to add to this presentation for us?
No, I just wanted to recognize the hard work that the office has been conducting in the off cycle. A lot of times we forget that, you know, they're very visible during the election cycle, but the real work is really taking place right now when you've got a very capable and talented team that I think you'll see working hard to make sure everything is in order for the upcoming election cycle in 2026.
Yes, absolutely. We're all lucky to have your dedication to Washoe County. Thank you for your service. Commissioner Andriola.
Thank you. Thank you, all of you, and all of you that aren't here, that are in the ROV working hard. We appreciate all of the transparency and appreciate these quarterly updates as well. I think it's really important. I do have a couple questions. On slide 5, the 393,035 ballots cast, and you've got the breakdown of the 164,000 and the percentages in person and then the mail. And then over on the left, you had put down the various affiliations. And I'm wondering if you have a breakdown or can get us a breakdown of what that looks like with those 2 in person and mail.
Sure, I actually do have that breakdown.
Okay,
so votes by mail, Democratic, 100,900 votes. Republicans, 77,400. Nonpartisan, 41,200. And minority parties, 9,200. Those are the rough estimates. If you want the exact counts, I will get those to you.
That's close enough.
In person, Democrat, 48,400. Republican, 72,600. Nonpartisan, 32,500, and minority parties, 10,600.
Thank you. I think it's helpful. When I was reviewing and looking and preparing for the meeting today, you know, you had separated those on the left, and so thank you for being so prepared. I really appreciate it. I also really want to thank you, and I'm just going to have you move to the new mission statement, because I really feel that that new mission statement, and you made a comment that I thought was really pertinent in terms of your office and your leadership in resetting the values in Washoe County, resetting the values, and the fact that you have highlighted very clearly and succinctly safe, secure, transparent election administration and protecting eligible citizens to right to vote, and maintaining the public trust through accuracy, integrity, and innovation. I don't want to put you on the spot, but I don't know who came up with that. I don't know if that was a collective effort.
That was us three.
Well,
yes.
Kudos to you three. There's classes you can take for a whole semester on writing vision, mission,
yes.
And I think you really captured what the essence of every election should have. And so it's from that, as we have heard, and even today, and as I speak with people, one of the most common terms you hear a lot is election integrity. And, it is a top concern, and I know it's a concern for you, for the staff, and for everyone who goes to the polls to vote. But I also think it's important to recognize the concern. There is concern, because there's a lot of things as human beings we would like to get under the hood, and I'm going to stick with this metaphor. So you want to get under the hood and you want to see some things that you can't. You just can't, in terms of other than, even breaking open the machine, not breaking in an invalid way, but even taking the machine apart and pulling every component and having to essentially look at that is really beyond the capability of when the elections are underway. And so with that metaphor in terms of seeing inside the Washoe County voting model and essentially popping the hood, we have not really had a new, I'll say a good way to actually pop the hood and look at the engine, to stick with this metaphor. So it's from that part of recognizing this in the 2+ years that I've been here, that really looking at what could we do? What research could I undertake, and listening not only to folks who are experts in this field, but also looking at what is nationally recognized. And it's really clear in speaking with leadership at Washoe County and speaking with you as the ROV that the Center for Internet Security is being looked at by Washoe County to create a CIS, or Center for Internet Security based validated standard of controls. Those standard of controls are auditable. And I think that's really, really important, so you can look under the hood. And I think that as you work through this process, I think it's helpful for everyone to understand, and I'm just going to read that the Center for Internet Security is a globally recognized nonprofit organization devoted to making the connected world safer. The incredible news is the Center for Internet Security has accepted Washoe County as a pilot program for elections, which is huge. And I think that through this year plus, almost 2 years of doing a lot of research and connecting people, this model will allow full transparency. It'll allow what you are putting on your new mission statement. It'll allow the new reset, if you want to call it that, resetting the values that have always been aspired to, but truly resetting. So it's not replacing anything, it's adding an additional layer of everything that you already have that you're doing great work on. And I think for me, I'm very proud to have connected that to Washoe County, because it not only puts Washoe County in terms of building trust and transparency and all of this, as well as really putting Washoe County in a state for not only the state of Nevada, but even at a national level. And so what I would like to really ask Andrew, is if you could come back and do a presentation about the details of this. And I know you're working through that and working with the team through that and ensuring that there's compliance and oversight. But having a third-party, independent, globally recognized organization and accepting Washoe County as the pilot program is great. And that is really something that we all should, I think, be celebrating. More importantly, we should be celebrating when those things go into place, because then you can look under the hood. Then you can have an audible, trackable system. And it's hard to dispel if there's uncertainty when you can't really prove it or unprove it. And even though there's been great attempts to do that, I think this will create that layer. So thank you for your leadership. And I really look forward for the entire board and for the entire community as you finalize these steps to come back. And I appreciate the interim county manager's leadership on this as well. There's been a lot of work, a lot of conversations, a lot of ensuring that the validity of this meets the highest level of security in terms of building trust. And that is what this is about. It's not about putting in equipment. It's not about any of that. It's about globally recognized standards that are going to be put into place through processes and people. So thank you, Andrew. I'm going to look forward to having everyone see what the details of this. And I hope that a representative from the Center for Internet Security can also accompany you when the time is right. So thank you for the time, Madam Chair.
And thank you, Commissioner Andriolo, for really digging into that and working hard on it. That's really great that we were chosen as a pilot project and it won't be additional cost to us. So it'll be great to ensure that folks feel like their vote is safe and secure. Commissioner Clark.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Unfortunately, Vice Chairman Herman is not here today. She's been involved in this for some time, more than 2 years, probably 3 or 4 years, and she's got a lot of questions, but she's unfortunately not here today. She's tried to get something on the agenda here at the county for at least 3 years. Came back in different forms. Some of the things that she wanted were, I guess, if my recollection is correct, copies of other counties, things that are already being used in other counties in the state. And so just unfortunate that we never had that come on the agenda for this commissioners to opine on. So just wanted to get that on the record. Next, I want to, if you can go back to the slide that showed the number of registered voters. Okay, we're showing active registered voters, 344,335. And then we're showing 300, and I understand that that's as of today.
Correct.
But we also had 3,900 and 3,900 and the other number there, 3,925 people that voted. So there's a difference of about 49,000 between who voted in the last election and who's currently on the rolls. What happened to those approximately 49,000 extra voters? Did they all move out of the neighborhood? Did they all move out of the county? Do we have housing availability because 49,000 people are no longer here? Explain how what took place there.
Sure, yeah. Do you want to explain that part? Thank you.
Good afternoon. The 393,035 ballots cast is cumulative over the presidential preference primary election and general election. So that's the total ballots cast for all 3 elections, rather than the total amount of voters per election that cast a ballot.
So can we get a number of who actually voted without the presidential preference and who, just in the general election, for the last general election that we had, what was the number of voters there? I don't want to see it all lumped together. I'd like to see that compare apples to apples. Active registered voters, because quite frankly, it throws people off. I've gotten calls about this, and people have asked me that question, and so it just, I think it's wise to explain what really took place there, rather than just show a big number like that.
Understood, Commissioner. Thank you. We'll get that next time we present, or earlier if you'd like.
Sure, yeah.
Thank you.
I think we should get that number and put it on the county's website and let people know that, so I don't have to hear about it anymore, okay?
No problem.
It's as simple as that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Clark. And I have just a few questions. I did want to point out that Commissioner Garcia had a family emergency, and that's why she's not here, or else she would have questions, and also commend your office. Could we go back to slide 7, please? I'm learning so much. I feel like every time you come to me, I'm like, okay, this is something I didn't know, and perhaps I just need clarification on. So the August date, the August 6, 2025 date, so the cards for inactivity during the 2024 elections, were those cards related to the May cards that were sent, or are they fully separate than that? And so if you did not vote in 2024, and is it if we had a return ballot, is that why we sent it? So if you could just clarify so I can make sure I'm communicating to the public of folks who maybe did not show to this last election, like you've got to go down to the Registrar of Voters and make sure you're still on the rolls, that would be helpful for me.
Yeah, so the cards that were sent in May were sent specifically for undeliverable ballots from the general election, and it was quite smaller just because a lot of people had taken action and updated the records since. So we sent 6,000, and of those 6,000, none of those were included in the 35,000. So the undeliverables are handled separately from the voter inactivity where they didn't vote and they haven't updated their records since prior to 2024.
And so folks who did not vote prior to 2024, but maybe voted in 22, potentially could not be registered to vote.
They will be made after the 33-day deadline, which was yesterday. They'll be made inactive.
Okay.
And a big distinguisher there is they can still go to a vote center and vote. They can update their registration. They just won't be mailed a ballot. They'll be designated as inactive on the voter registration list.
Got it. But they can come in person to early vote or day of and still vote. Is it a provisional ballot at that point?
No. So
Okay.
it would technically just be an update, whether they update in person at the vote center or they update online and then go and vote in person.
Okay.
But they wouldn't be voting a provisional ballot.
Okay, that's good information to know. Thank you. And when you get your Real ID, are folks being switched to nonpartisan automatically when they get that Real ID in the same way that if folks were getting their driver's license? Just a random question, but just I don't know if you have the answer for that.
Yes, yeah. So anytime a voter updates their registration at the DMV, now it's automatically coming to us. They don't get the option. We receive that information. But whether it's that type of update or another update, if they're an existing registered voter, they retain their party. So
Okay.
if they're already designated as a party, they retain that. If they're a brand new voter and they don't designate a party, they're registered as nonpartisan, and then we send them a letter asking them to confirm what party they'd like to be registered with.
Okay, thank you for the clarification. Again, I'm learning. I really appreciate that. And I am so excited that you're working with the school district on trying to get kids to understand how to vote, and I just really appreciate your work with that. And I can't believe how much y'all are in the community, and yet you're getting all this work done in the office. I know there's a lot of pressure on your office, but I think that when you have these informative discussions with the board and you're so transparent and updating your website, oh my gosh, I'm so excited because that is so needed. It's going to be so much better for the community to understand what you do, why you do it, and to build that trust. So I just really appreciate your work with that, and I can't wait to see what new locations we have based on this really data-driven approach. And I know that I'm trying to help with my work on the RSCVA to find buildings for you that are on these heat map areas with a lot of parking. But if any other board members can assist you, I know that we want to support you with finding great locations to make sure that we can ensure that no one is waiting in line while they're waiting to vote. And I know that in West Reno, that was an issue, as well as Sun Valley and some other parts of town, and we just want to make sure that we're supporting those locations. So whatever you need from us, let us know.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Madam Commissioner. We do want to blow out the lines. We don't want a line here.
Right.
Right? I mean, that is the goal, to put more equipment, more people, more processes. That does cost a little bit more money.
It does.
But in reality, that if you don't want a line, either you vote early, right? Or you come on election day and we have the right amount of equipment there and people to help you to get through the line faster.
Exactly. Well, thank you for your efforts on that, and we'll continue to get that education out of how important it is that people can vote early, because that's a great thing about Nevada. Any other commissioners have comments or questions? I'm not seeing. Oh, yes, Commissioner Andriola.
Thinking about our previous presentation for the bridge program, and the motto of that the person said, I'm going to read it because I think it just applies, right, is build to work and build to prove it. So it's really exciting to think about what's coming next and have that proof and have it be very, very clear and auditable. So I'm looking forward to the presentation. And thanks for everybody's hard work and your dedication. And more importantly, your family understanding when the elections are happening that you still love them and care about them. And I'm sure you put your picture on the fridge so they'll remember who you are, because you're gone a lot. And I think we should recognize those families who sacrifice their loved ones to actually hold what I think is the most precious part of being in America, and that's the right to vote as a U.S. citizen. So thank you.
Absolutely. I'm so proud of this board for investing in your office. And yeah, let's do an applause for your office. And because it is probably the most important thing we do here, what you do is to ensure our democracy on a local level. What were you going to say? Sorry, Mr. Registrar.
I was just going to say thank you. I appreciate your support.
We appreciate it. Well, have a great rest of your day, and we'll be chatting soon.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to now move into our consent items. Manager Thomas, do you have any changes to the consent calendar?
I do not. You have only 4 items for consideration, items 8A1 to 8C2.
Thank you very much. Any board members have questions or comments on consent? I'm not seeing that anyone does. Any public comment on consent, Madam Clerk?
We have nobody signed in.
Okay, well, I am looking for a motion on consent, please.
Move to approve.
Thank you, Commissioner Andriola. Do I have a second? Thank you, Commissioner Clark. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, please say nay. And that motion passes unanimously. We are now moving into block vote, and we have a skeleton crew of a board right now. Excuse me. If Manager Thomas could please recommend the block vote that Vice Chair Herman and I agreed on.
Certainly. I'd be happy to recommend that on behalf of the Vice Chair. She was proposing items 9, item 14, and item 15 to be considered for a block vote.
Thank you very much. Is there a motion on that block vote?
Move to approve.
Thank you, Commissioner Andriola. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Clark. And Madam Clerk, is there any public comment on the block?
We have nobody signed in.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, please say nay. And that passes. Oh, it's up on your screen. That motion passes unanimously as well. We're going to move into item 10. Manager Thomas, if you'll help us with that.
Certainly. Thank you. Item number 10 is a recommendation to approve pursuant to state law the appointment of one applicant to the Washoe County Planning Commission when the commission convenes as the Capital Improvement Advisory Committee. That's for a full term beginning retroactively on July 1st, 2025 and ending on June 30th, 2029, or until such a time as the member no longer serves on the Planning Commission or as a member of that advisory committee, or if a successor is appointed, whichever occurs first. Eligible applications are listed below for your consideration.
Thank you. Welcome, Ms. Wilson.
Good morning, or good afternoon, rather.
Thank you.
Chair Hill and members of the commission. So as interim county manager mentioned, you have 3 applicants in front of you, and you have the ballot available to vote for your top candidate.
Thank you very much. And Ms. Johnson, welcome as well. Okay, Madam Clerk, do we have any public comment on this item?
We do not.
We don't. Okay, so we're going to choose one applicant, and we will see where we get. Thank you, Madam Clerk.
Okay, for round one, Chair Hill voted for Jose Portillo. Commissioner Andriola voted for Matthew Robinson. And Commissioner Clark voted for Matthew Robinson.
Okay, we have 2 votes for Mr. Robinson. I am looking for a motion.
Move to approve.
Thank you, Commissioner Andriola.
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Clark. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, please say nay. And it's up on your screen. Thank you very much. We're now going to move into item 11. Madam Clerk, if you'll help us with that.
Yes. Okay, this is a first reading. This will be bill number 1935 to adopt an amended development agreement for St. James Village, TM5-2-92, to extend the deadline for recording the next final map to October 16th, 2027, and to authorize the Director of the Community Services Department to further extend the deadline for recording the next final map to October 16th, 2029, if certain conditions are present.
Thank you very much. And I'm looking to the board to see if folks need a staff presentation. No. Okay. Is there any public comment on this item?
We have nobody signed in.
Okay. Any commissioner comments or questions? I'm not seeing anyone. So if someone wants to read it into the record, Commissioner Andriola.
I'll move to approve bill number 1935 as presented in the staff report.
Thank you very much. All right. We will now move into item 12. Madam Clerk, it's back to you.
Okay, and this first reading will be bill number 1936, amends Washoe County Code Chapter 110, Development Code, to increase the maximum density for multiple family dwellings in the Crystal Bay Condominiums Regulatory Zone Special Area.
Thank you very much. And do any board members need a staff presentation on this? I'm not seeing that anyone does. Okay, is there any public comment?
There is none.
Okay, thank you, Madam Clerk. There is no public comment. If there's no other commissioner comments, looking for someone to help me with the first reading.
I'll move to approve bill number 1936 as presented in the staff report.
Thank you, Commissioner Andriola. We'll now move into item 13. Madam Clerk.
Okay, this first reading will be bill number 1937 to adopt a development agreement for Peterson Village, previously Village Parkway, a residential common area open space subdivision, tentative subdivision map case number WTM M21-007, to extend the deadline by which the first final map must be recorded to September 7th, 2027.
Thank you very much. Any commissioner want a staff report? Not seeing anyone does. Any public comment, Madam Clerk?
We have nobody signed in.
Okay, I'm looking for someone to help me with this first reading.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll move to approve bill number 1937 as presented in the staff report.
Thank you very much. We will now move into item 16. This is a public hearing, so I'll open up the public hearing and I will move it to Manager Thomas to help us with this one.
Thank you. You are hearing a master plan amendment case number WMPA 25-0002 and regulatory zone amendment case number WRZA 25-0002, which is 700 Harper Court. This is a consideration of the Planning Commission's recommendation to adopt an amendment to the Washoe County Master Plan Tahoe Area Plan to change the master plan land use category on a single parcel. It's 5.74 acres. The APN is listed on the agenda from 80% conservation and 20% residential to 100% residential. It's also asking you to, subject to final approval of the associated master plan amendment, finding of conformance with the Tahoe Regional Plan, to adopt an amendment to the Tahoe Area Regulatory Zone Map to change the regulatory zone on the same parcel I mentioned from 80% Mount Rose and 20% Incline Village, which is 1 unit per parcel, to 100% Incline Village, which is 1 unit per parcel. And if approved, you'll authorize the chair to sign a resolution to this effect. There's additional information listed on the agenda about the applicant.
Thank you very much, and I would like a staff report on this, so welcome, Ms. Waikey.
Okay, thank you. Senior Planner Courtney Waikey, Washoe County. Okay, the request The subject request is intended to remedy a non-conforming use of a parcel with bisected master plan designations and regulatory zoning. Currently, the subject parcel has both residential with Incline Village 1 regulatory zone and conservation with Mountain Rose regulatory zone land use categories within the property boundaries. The applicant wishes to amend the master plan and regulatory zones for the entirety of the subject parcel to be master planned and zoned as residential. The parcel is located in the Tahoe planning area, is 5.75 acres, and developed with a single-family dwelling built in 1992. And as stated, has both residential and conservation master plan and regulatory zones. 1.12 acres of the parcel lies within the residential Incline Village 1 master plan and regulatory zone, and 4.64 acres of the parcel lies within the conservation Mount Rose master plan and regulatory zone. As illustrated above, the existing single-family dwelling is located solely in the Conservation Mount Rose Master Plan and Regulatory Zone portion of the parcel and is considered non-conforming because year-round residential uses are not an allowed use type in such designation. The only residential use type allowed in the Mount Rose regulatory zone is for summer homes. The Tahoe Regional Planning Agency defines use types in the Tahoe Basin. Summer homes are defined as a cabin-type single-family house intended primarily for intermittent vacation use and located in U.S. Forest Service summer home tracts or other remote recreation sites. Such structures are generally located in areas of restricted winter access. As you can see there in the aerial image with the red arrow pointing to the home, that the home is located in an established neighborhood and has year-round paved access from Harper Court. By amending the master plan and regulatory zone from conservation to residential, it would allow a change in use type from summer homes to single-family dwelling. The applicant has stated there are fire insurance implications with the existing use type or zoning that they can further clarify in their presentation. Staff did receive 5 public comments after the Planning Commission agenda went out. All expressed a concern primarily for an increase in development potential. That is actually not likely or really possible due to TRPA coverage restrictions. The parcel is currently already over its maximum coverage that would be currently allowed today, and therefore no additional structures or additional coverage would be allowed. And so the likelihood of anything, any additional development potential on this parcel is not likely due to TRPA requirements. And again, I believe the applicant has a couple slides on that as well. All applicable agencies and county departments received the notification of the application. No comments in opposition were received. This issue was initially brought to our attention by TRPA staff, and while informally only, TRPA staff have expressed support for the amendment. The request still must go through all of their required processes to amend the area plan. The Planning Commission held a public hearing on August 5th of 2025 and were able to make all the required findings and passed a motion unanimously recommending approval of the request to the Board of County Commissioners. I have provided a possible motion reflecting the recommendation to adopt the master plan and regulatory zone amendment. And with that, I'm available for any questions.
Thank you very
And I
much.
believe the applicant, yes.
Great.
The applicant is in the room, and they do have a presentation available if you wish.
Wonderful, and I think we do want that. I'm just curious, Ms. Waike,
Yes.
how does this happen? Do you know because I couldn't quite figure out from the staff report how this happened.
How we got here?
Yeah.
That's a really loaded question.
Okay, sorry.
Because there's an evolution in the basin of how zoning and these land use categories were established, and they've evolved from what we used to call plan area statements, and then into community plans, and then into area plans, and at some point, there was a line drawn on that parcel, likely related to some sort of environmental protection. How it ended up on this specific parcel, we have a few of them. It's much more common off the hill and in the valley down here where we have mixed designations and mixed zoning. It's not as common up in the basin. I think Mr. Exline, who is representing the applicant or the owner on this, has a vast historical knowledge with TRPA, and he may actually be able to better describe the history on this specific parcel.
Great.
So maybe we can
We'll
punt it
call
to
him up. Let's call him up.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. It's an absolute pleasure to be with you today. I'm joined with Jaden Woolzer. She works for Exline & Company. This is actually her first presentation in front of a public body.
Great.
So I want you guys to be easy on her. And I, as a Washoe County, born and raised here, I would say this was the perfect body to bring it, opposed to some of those California bodies. But we'll keep those away from the California folks. No, really quickly, I'm going to let Jaden do the breadth of the presentation, but just to touch on your question and really just explain at a very high level why we're here. So really, in terms of the bisected zoning, there's not, like a silver bullet or, saying exactly why it happened. But fundamentally, it was a connection between how the basin was zoned pre-TRPA. TRPA was formed in February 1972. And so in an effort, and there's a long legal history that goes back before TRPA and all these various different things. But long story short, in an effort to kind of manage growth before TRPA, there was zoning practices that existed kind of around the basin. To Ms. Weike's point, a lot of those has been cleaned up as area plans are being adopted, like Washoe County did and so forth, and the amendments you're going through for various different clients. We're in front of regulatory bodies, pretty regularly just on some cleanup items like this. So it is rare, but it's not uncommon. And before I turn it over to Ms. Woolzer, the main reason we're here is fire. Fundamentally, we'll connect on the TRPA components quickly, but fire insurance is a challenging issue everywhere. Washoe County's had fire issues, obviously the basin. As a South Lake resident, we were evacuated a few years ago. And as you deal with fire insurance companies, in some ways they become a de facto land use entity unto themselves. Because if they say no, if you guys say yes, and the agency says yes, it's still a no. And so we're doing this to have a uniform zoning so that in the event of a fire, it could be redeveloped. And Jaden will speak to while some of the other comments, in terms of growth and just the normal TRPA comments aren't applicable to this because of the existing land capability and other restrictions. And so if there's any questions, I'll pass it over to Jaden.
Yeah. Hi, Commissioners. Good morning. So I'm here to present the master plan and regulatory zone amendments that we are presenting to the board today. So the proposed project, like Courtney Weike had discussed, basically corrects a current bisection zoning issue in Incline Village. There is a residential parcel that is currently has split zoning between residential and conservation zoning types. And so the property owner is wishing to clear that up due to the fire liability kind of issues that Nick highlighted earlier, as well as just overall, making sure that our conservation zones don't have homes in them. Okay, so yeah, one of the main comments that we got was related to development potential. Due to the realities of TRPA and the underlying kind of land capability zonings I'll go into more in depth on the next slide, there is no increase in development potential that's possible as a result of passing this motion. So, TRPA throughout the basin has underlying land capability classes that determine how much coverage or impervious surface is allowed on a parcel. This includes homes, concrete, all sorts of impervious surfaces. And so this parcel specifically is zoned 1A, which is the lowest amount of coverage possible. So you're only allowed 1% coverage per parcel area. So the current parcel size, I have that listed, it's 250,776 square feet. And at 1% coverage, that would only be, TRPA would only allow 2,500 418 square feet of coverage. And as it currently exists, there is 7,475 square feet of coverage associated with the existing single-family dwelling and other impervious surfaces. So for that reason, no additional coverage would be permissible if this motion were passed, because we're already over the allowed amount of coverage. Courtney Waikey, she discussed this as well, but again, this kind of just shows a graphic of the portion that is currently zoned as Incline Village 1 and the portion that is zoned as conservation in the Mount Rose Conservation Area. So we're just looking to correct the entire parcel to be zoned as Incline Village 1. These are just the parcel specifics, the acres associated with it. Courtney Waikey had touched on this prior. And again, the fire liability issue with insurance is really the main issue why we're presenting this motion today. As Nick touched on, it's really difficult with fire insurance in the basin, so we're just looking to make sure that there's no reason that the homeowner will be denied fire insurance or a payout in the event of a fire. We did have a neighborhood meeting on April 16th from 5:30 to 6:30. This was held virtually. There was nearby residents from Harper Court as well as other streets in the community that came, addressed their concerns. They had a bunch of questions, particularly relating to development, how it would impact density, those sorts of things. As we touched on previously, there really is no impact. This is just correcting kind of an error in the existing master plan. Cool. So I'm here for any questions, comments, or concerns you may have.
Thank you. Any board member comments or questions? Commissioner Andriola.
I don't have any questions, but you did a great job.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm so nervous.
If you would have not said you even were nervous, it didn't show. So
Well,
imagine when you're a seasoned professional, how you're going to be really, you did a great job.
Thank you so much.
And thank you for really being succinct and looking all of this and preparing. It was very clear. Some of the issues you've clarified. So, and obviously it still has to go and conform with the Tahoe Regional Plan. So there's still things that we'll have to go through. So it's very, very appreciative of us being able to share with you your first public presentation.
Yeah.
Great job.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Yes, absolutely. I remember my first presentation to the Sparks City Council and my knees were shaking.
Yeah, I'm literally shaking.
I get it, and you'll get used to it. I'm just curious, if it was to be rebuilt, so it only could be a 2,500 square foot home, correct? Or 2,500 square feet of coverage, or?
If there was a prior site assessment that confirmed the amount of existing coverage, then they technically could uphold that 7,000 some odd square feet that was previously mentioned. I don't know off the top of my head if there has been a site assessment.
Okay.
But
and that's through TRPA.
Exactly.
Okay.
But if not, you are correct. They would have to adhere to that 1% coverage allowable, which would be the 2,500 square feet. But as of now, the homeowner has expressed that he has no interest in tearing down and rebuilding the home. He built it for him and his wife to retire, so.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for that.
Yes.
Is there any public comment, Madam Clerk, on this item?
There is nobody signed in.
Okay. Any other commissioner comments? All right. This is in my district, so I am happy to make the motion. I'm sorry, I'm pulling it up. I don't know if Courtney, if you can pull up the, there it is. There it is. It's at the end here. Okay. I move to adopt the master plan amendment, case WMPA 250002, which is an amendment to the Tahoe area plan as provided by attachment A, and then also subject to final approval of the associated master plan amendment and findings of conformance with the Tahoe regional plan by the TRPA, and to adopt regulatory zoning amendment WRZA 25-0002 as set forth in attachment B. Looking for a second?
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Andriola. Any questions on that motion from the board? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye, and it's up on your screen. And that motion passes unanimously. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
It.
All right, we are out of our public hearings. On to our final public comment, Manager Thomas.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Comment heard under this item will be limited to 3 minutes per person and may pertain to matters both on and off the commission agenda. Unused time may not be allocated to other speakers. We'll remind folks comments are to be made to the commission as a whole.
Thank you very much. Madam Clerk.
Mary Richardson, followed by Susan Walls.
Good afternoon. Let's see. My name is Mary Richardson, for the record. I'm with Indivisible Northern Nevada, which is an all-volunteer, nonpartisan grassroots organization who keep our civil servants accountable. I just wanted to make a comment about the excellent work being done by the Sheriff's Office from the presentation today. It was very impressive. And the work that we do, we circulate petitions asking our fellow voting constituents to weigh in on various issues. And we take these results to the appropriate civil servants. One overwhelming response that we are getting is to the universal concern people have about the presence of ICE in our communities. And there are several sub-themes to this. People with masks and riot gear, which may or may not say ICE or police, and on taking people without identifying themselves, which agency they are part of, what their personal identity is, and the charges for which the named individuals are being charged. How the detainees are recorded and tracked, how the due process and civil rights of the detainees are ensured, documented, and transparent to the community. Using Homeland Security funds for a remodel of the jail, will the detainees taken by ICE be given the same due process and civil rights that are currently a routine part of detainees arrested by law enforcement? And then the possibility of using a legally called up National Guard to perform law enforcement activities. And the work that we do is primarily to support the best practices that this Sheriff's Office is currently maintaining, and we encourage retaining local autonomy. So for the past month and a half, 749 people have put their names and zip codes on these petitions demanding accountability, and I will submit these rather than read through because of time, and I thank you.
Thank you very much.
Susan Walls. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I want to thank the Commission and Andrew McDonald, as well as his deputies, for the presentation on the state of Registrar of Voters. I had the privilege of observing the early voting process at several voting centers during the 2024 general election cycle. I was able to observe the process from opening to close on several days. I'm not here today to talk about any statistics. While no process is perfect or without minor hiccups, I was impressed with the professionalism of the poll managers and workers, and the efficiency with which they enabled hundreds of voters to exercise their voting rights each day. On several occasions, managers provided visual and verbal demos of machines and processes. Any hiccups I observed were indeed minor. In every instance, they were resolved quickly and efficiently, following what appeared to be well-communicated protocol. Some examples were lengthy lines at the West Reno Library, which was a very popular location, minor issues with paper jams and voting machines, a voting machine that needed to be restarted, rebooted with assistance, phone assistance from IT, same-day registration with verification of eligibility and provisional ballots where appropriate, identity verification where signatures varied slightly from voter records. I also stayed on several occasions to observe the closing procedures and secure chain of custody process of mail-in ballots that were dropped off, as well as pickup of records from each voting machine. The processes included multiple verifications of the number of mail-in ballots, as well as the number of in-person voters checked in against the number of votes submitted. I did not observe a single action that would imply the voting process was not secure or that an ineligible individual cast a vote. I commend every single individual who ensures the county and state voting process is secure. That said, I do have a personal observation concerning my own vote, and I've heard the same from many others. I dropped my mail-in ballot at one of the early voting centers on the first day centers opened. While I was told that mail-in ballots would be entered in the system daily as received at the county facility, it took several days before receipt was reflected on my voting record. In addition, there were a couple of weeks after the election before my voting record reflected on my ballot that my ballot had been counted. Given the contentious election environment, not knowing whether my vote would be counted created a lot of anxiety. I'm not sure the reason for the delay, but it would be helpful to reflect whether an individual's ballot was counted more timely. Doing so would result in significantly fewer calls and emails to the registrar's office, thus increasing efficient use of resources. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for letting us know about that experience.
We have nobody else signed in.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We'll now move into item 18, Commissioner and County Manager announcements. Do you have anything for us, Manager Thomas?
I do not.
Okay. And Commissioner Andrilla?
Thank you. I would just like to remind everyone of a point that the ROV, Mr. McDonald, mentioned in terms of not being able to utilize some of the talented employees that have volunteered their time due to the rules that are in place based on elections. And there isn't any person that didn't work as hard as our clerk. And I'd like to recognize her for doing a great job, and for all of the people in the clerk's office, oh, they're shaking their head, in the clerk's office, along with all the other offices as well. So I just don't want to single them out, but I am bringing it up in terms of that is a big gap. So I'm hoping that some of the other departments might be able to maybe have a competition in terms of a friendly competition, that we have more hours in 2026 and then a volunteer in 2024. I don't know, I'm not making light of it, but I do think it's really important to start that now, and I'm sure it sounds like the ROV is doing that, but that is going to be a big gap. And as he was reporting that and as preparing for this meeting, I saw that. I was like, so I'm hoping that maybe 2026 volunteer hours will beat those of 2024, and then we'll see what happens in the next election after that. So I'd like to also thank the interim county manager, who's doing a great job. I think you're doing a great job. I'd like to also recognize what is becoming now a fixture in our chambers with Assistant DA Michael Large. I think we need to actually work on more difficult, challenging questions. So we don't want you to feel neglected, but I do also want to recognize you for always making yourself available, always making yourself available. And the same with the interim county manager as well. Thank you for making yourself available. We take a lot of pride in preparing for this, and a lot of times things come up. So thank you again. And everybody who's listening, who's an employee of Washoe County, hurry and sign up with the ROV. They need you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Clark.
I have no comment, thank you.
Okay, well, thank you everyone for a wonderful meeting. It is 1:11 and we are adjourned.